Who Knows God Part 2, a novel by Leonard Smith. Copyright 2012, Warner Books Entertainment. All rights reserved. Edited by Diane Muggerson and Allison Logigan for Skybridge Studio. Cover design by Fireflight Up Designs. This is a work of fiction. Any references or similarities to actual events, real people, living or dead, or to real locales, are intended to give the novel a sense of reality. Any similarity or other names, characters, places, and incidents is entirely coincidental. God, the biologist, the cardiologist, the ophthalmologist, the economist, the sociologist, the neurologist, the anthropologist, the astronomer, the psychologist, the astrologist, the geologist, the gemologist, the physical scientist, the engineer, the architect, the judge, the witness, the infinite, Jehovah, Allah, him, he, the king, the provider, the utterly just, the geographer, the oceanographer, the mathematician, the Hashem, the core of all knowledge, the all-aware, the great, the wise, Pop's dad. Also from On the Book CNT, 49% this, 49% that, and 2% other, my debut novel, as well as Who Knows God. Foreword, the blind and the seeing are not alike, nor the depths of darkness and the light. Verily, we have sent you in truth, as a bearer of glad tidings and a warner, and there was never a people living without a warner living among them. And if they reject you, so did their predecessors reject their messengers, who came to them with clear signs, books of dark prophecies, and the books of enlightenment. The Holy Quran, chapter 35, verse 19 through 25. Preface. Right. If it be the will of Almighty God, this will be the last time I ever spill blood. Gwen Jordan. Date, September 10th, 2010. This was Candace's favorite time of the year. The dog days of summer were a thing of the past. 'Tis the season of waking up to a touch of chill in the air. The colors of new life will be coming in soon, a new beginning. Candace certainly could use a resurrection. The change in the seasons had to be a mercy from God, she thought, as she scoped out the elements of the ghetto around her. Just like all other change, so we won't become weak and fucking lazy. Her thoughts, rooted in the Lord, sparked other thoughts of her teacher, Tekk, her best friend, Gwen's father. Tekk helped her shake her addiction to crack cocaine with his, well, whatever it is Tekk has. Candace silently wished that God's mercy be with him wherever he was. As Candace hustled down into 116th Street subway station, she forcefully pulled herself back from the depths of her thought. Tekk had instructed her that although it was important to think, dream, and reflect, in these difficult times of living, mastery of our every action was required. Focus, she told herself, while walking past a brother in a jean jacket who offered to swipe her past the turnstile for $2 and opposed to the $2.25 that she would otherwise be paying. What's up, boo? You need a swipe? Candace declined without saying a word and wiped the Metro card into the turnstile reader. She looked around for Gwen, who she expected to be waiting for her. It wasn't like Gwen to be late. No one was around except for a boy sitting on the benches in a black hoodie and an old Puerto Rican man sporting a USS Indianapolis cap, his nose running from the weather shift. Candace waited. Reaching in her pockets, she pulled out a few pieces of crumbled, partially used napkins, 7 cents, a tube of lip gloss, and a mini pencil she pilfered from the library. She tossed everything in the garbage can except for the nickel and raspberry-flavored lip balm. Back inside her head, there was something that she was supposed to be rejoicing in. School. That's it. School. Candace was starting classes with the rest of the young world next week. A refreshing thought and an even better reality. Looking up to navigate her course, she saw the hooded boy waving at her. Candace screwed her face, looking behind her shoulders to see if perhaps he was calling someone behind her. There was no one there. She turned back to the boy, whose baseball cap was pulled so low over his young brown face, similar to the way his backside was pulled down in the bench. Candace approached. Oh my God, she said to herself as she neared and noticed the ball boy was actually her friend Gwen. She wore baggy nylon sweatpants decked out in all black. The pants Candace could dig, but the big hoodie and the beat-up boots were a bit too much. Nevertheless, it was Gwen. So if she was sporting it, it was a good chance it would become the popular thing to sport. She had that sort of effect. Nice birthday outfit. You going to rob a bank? Candace joked, expecting to crack the rigor within Gwen's face. Gwen didn't bother responding. She gazed out at the dark tracks in front of her. After enough time had passed so that Candace was sure that she wasn't responding to the question, Gwen spoke. You know, sometimes my father could be the most caring, loving, handsome, wonderful person. Her face changed. She continued with hints of tears in her eyes. Then other times, she shook her head in a mix of mild disgust and ugly energy. He could be the nastiest, meanest, biggest asshole on the planet. Gwen had a reputation for being sharp, witty beyond her years. It was generally understood that she didn't say anything without a strong root of reason. Candace wished that Gwen would remain patient with her flawed father, but for all her intelligence and charisma, there was a stubbornness in her heart that had yet to be healed. Candace took a seat beside her and kept her ears open. An electronic advisory called from the station's loudspeaker. There's a Brooklyn-bound 6 train 1 station away. They shared a moment of silence before Gwen added a touch of optimism to her rhetoric. But I must say, I do understand him more. Candace turned to look her in the eyes as she continued. People are something else. You try to bring them the word of God, and they try to bring you harm, hurt, and even death. She leaned back as her father would have, as if Allah had granted her further dimension to her thought. Her face was a portrait of deep contemplation, one that was only visible to those who knew her. An outsider would perceive her as dazed, lost in emptiness. As usual, the strap hangers of the city appeared from their mutual hiding places after the station's electronic alert went off, announcing the arrival of the downtown 6 train. There's a Brooklyn-bound 6 train approaching the station. They stood and made their way back toward the center of the platform. Stay behind me, Gwen instructed Candace, more so with her eyes than her words. Gwen had dramatic, amazingly sharp eyes. She read everything. There was no lying in her presence. So when Aisha walked onto the platform, Gwen's eyes foretold the destruction that was to come. Gwen broughtened herself up in her outfit, hiding behind a hood, strolling like a teenage boy would. Candace wondered, what the hell? But like most things with Gwen, she knew that in due time the whole story would unfold with truth and reasoning. Headlights approached. Gwen turned over her shoulder. This is going to be the last time I spill blood. Her words suggested a hint of remorse about her actions to come. Inshallah, Candace attested, feeling like she knew where this was going. Right. If it be the will of Almighty God, this will be the last time I spill blood. Gwen agreed with stark conviction. Gwen got ready, particularly with her hands, which stiffened with her will. She was in, locked and loaded. Candace could feel it. She was about to take it to Aisha. The 6 train entered the station like a silver bullet. As they approached, Candace could tell that Aisha had no idea who Gwen was, not the best position for her to be in considering their solemn beef. Then, with the physicality of a football player, Gwen gathered every muscle in her body and pushed Aisha off the edge of the platform. Candace's heart froze. There was no doubt that the train trampled the girl. The impact sounded like a car accident or two. This before the gut-wrenching crunch that was Aisha's skeleton crumbling. The train brakes screeched as the iron horse came to an all-too-late halt. Horrified, Candace looked up. Gwen was gone. Approximately 2 years earlier. Chapter 1. Russell, Big Easy down. 50 miles. What you trying to be, the Diesel Bob Marley? Russell down. December 18th, 2008. Pushing through the staircase door into the lobby, Russell looked around for police. He checked his attire to ensure his gun was completely concealed before hitting the exit. He buried his goatee-covered, mellow brown face behind the nylon collar of his Rockaway Parker and kept stepping. NYC had a bone-biting chill to it. Russell felt as if he were racing against an all-encompassing frostbite as he made his way to the car. He'd been looking forward to the drive from Harlem through the peaceful rural hillsides of Pennsylvania, where he could finally get some rest. This particular night was unusually calm, especially considering that the crew had been doing so many shows and Tekk was making so many appearances lately. Russell just wanted to cool out for a few days, even if that meant listening to Tekk's random sermons and running the tractor across the field for hours. Russell pulled the passenger side door open and rejoined LaRonda and Stump. Yo, we just found somebody dead in the elevator, yo, he dramatically informed them. LaRonda looked at him, perplexed, as she pushed the excess material of her Louis scarf behind her shoulders. What happened? she asked with a Harlem-edged femininity in her voice. Somebody shot this kid in the head, yo. I think Tekk knew him. The kid in the elevator now? Stump asked in his hard project-struck tone from the back seat. Russell became live with animation. Yeah, and Tekk sitting up there looking at him like he couldn't believe it. It's like he was stuck or something. Then this little girl came out. I'm like, yo, fam, we gotta roll. LaRonda's eyes wandered through the steel and concrete urban jungle of 112th Street. I ain't even hear no gunshots or nothing, though, she said to no one in particular. Two white men hurried past the metallic silver sedan. It looked like he'd been laying there for a minute, Russell said, eyeballing the foreigners with LaRonda. We probably wouldn't have heard no gunshots, he continued, turning his gaze away from the men and towards Stump. We ain't gonna hear no gunshots until we get on the farm with them big-ass cows Tekk got. 'Cause I ain't cutting no cow's throat. Fuck that. Before Russell could fully spill the laughter from his own joke, the very sound that he was just mocking engulfed him. Gunshots. As if God were playing some convoluted, conniving joke, the small explosions from handguns did come forth. They all turned toward the drama, as the streetlight gave the ordeal its own orange glow of reality. That's Tekk they shooting at, Stump shouted, either being the first to recognize the dread or the first to say it. The two white brothers, both in blue jeans with black Glocks, exchanged fire with Tekk, who was holding his own until the mighty blast from a shotgun smacked him to the ground. Russell spotted the 12-gauge toting third corporate. Fright seized him ever so briefly. The sheer size of the shotgun appeared to be larger than life. He instinctually reached out and grabbed LaRonda's arm as she reached for the door handle. Wait, Elle, hold up. No, I'm not just going to sit up here and watch him kill my husband. No, she hollered, as a lioness. Russell gathered his nerve. As LaRonda forced herself from the car, Russell snatched his weapon from beneath his green champion sweater. Dismissing the element of stealth, he slammed his car door with attitude and superficial courage. He squeezed his nickel-plated trigger. His shots and his purpose all lost, sunk deep in the drama. He kept firing, pulling his gun into itself, finally dropping one of the men. On the other end of the conflict was Tekk, who from his backside set up and invested a moment to take clear control of his gun. His long, rugged hair covered most of his face. Nevertheless, he had no trouble taking aim. He fired twice and put his target down, as Russell did the same with the shotgun-wielding officer. The tension of it all could be found in Russell's throat. He swallowed it finally, digesting the reality of the situation. He lowered his smoking, government-issued Beretta and looked around for witnesses. Tekk, LaRonda yelled. Hold on, Elle, make sure they don't got the guns in their hand, Russell cautioned. LaRonda took no heed. She rushed to her husband's aid. Russell looked the fallen men over before running behind her and Stump, who had jetted over. The dreadlocked marksman collapsed as if he'd only had the strength to complete that final mission. He released his grip on his weapon and let the cold instrument of death succumb to gravity. He fell back. The sight of his boy in so much pain forced Russell to look away. When he did, he saw a crowd gathered in the lobby. Then, as if God had unlocked his other senses, he heard screams of sirens. We got to get out of here, he declared. Tekk leaned upright, nursing his chest, his hair sprawled over him. Fully functional and coherent, he said, I'm all right, particularly to his wife. Help me up, he said, reaching out for Stump. Wait, LaRonda demanded, pushing Tekk's arm with the aggression of a woman not to be denied. Make sure you're all right first. Tekk didn't like to argue with his little lady, so he didn't bother responding or explaining himself as he reached his muscular arm out, this time for Russell's assistance. Help me get to the car, bro. Jason, LaRonda fired, stomping her Ugg boots into 112th Street. Somebody fucking killed Junior, Tekk explained with revenge already rotting his face. And those niggas is cops, he added, motioning toward the fallen plainclothes detectives. Junior's dead? She asked. Take me to the Buick, bro, Tekk said to Russell while reaching his wrapped arm around him for support. His leg was terribly heavy, and even more terrible was the bleeding. Stump helped as well. Before moving out, Russell picked up Tekk's gun. He turned, as did Tekk, to check out the scene in the building lobby. The Buick? Russell questioned as he glanced up to see numerous residents watching the action unfold from their windows as they escorted the wounded warrior to the curb. All witnesses. Yeah, they're going to be looking for that Volvo, Tekk explained. making it clear that he had no plans on going back to prison. LaRonda opened the car door and Tekk threw himself across the back seat, now tending to his leg injury with a deep grunt of pain. They all paused and gazed pitifully at him for a moment. "Come on," Tekk instructed the dumbfounded crew. He nearly kicked his wife, rejecting her entrance into the car. "No, baby, y'all gotta take another route." LaRonda made sure to look him in the eyes. The man who changed her religion, her life, cared for her and helped her develop her current level, now was telling her to take another route. She stood profoundly, staring into the windows of her partner's soul. He forced the issue. "Go." The chorus of red and blue police sirens sang from the rearview mirror. The police presence around them tightened. "I love you," LaRonda said with hard passion in her voice, as if to make her testament strong in the event that this were her last. "I love you too, Mama," Tekk said as he took her hand and embraced it. Out of the driver's side window, Russell saw the first man he gunned down struggling to his knees as he started the engine. "That's one of the detectives I shot. He's not dead," he thought at the relief of having one less murder on his chest. Stump suddenly took off running. Margot and LaRonda took flight as well. "Get out of here," Tekk yelled to Russell, who ripped the engine to drive and mashed into the gas. 11:49 p.m., the same night. It was 19 degrees outside. They were on an FDR drive before the heat kicked in. Between manually defogging the windows and driving, Russell frequently checked his rearview mirror to make sure Tekk was still among the living. The tears in his eyes were too tender in nature to be a result of physical pain, although he was clutching his upper chest as if to pacify the pain of the bullet wound. "My son," he said as he sprawled across the back seat in agony. "Somebody murdered my only son." "That was your son?" Stupid question, Russell thought after asking, knowing that even considering the circumstances, Tekk could find a way to get agitated. But Tekk was in his own head back there. "I'ma kill somebody so fucking bad," he grumbled. He had murder on his face, obviously paying no attention to Russell. He was in another place, a realm of death and blind revenge. In his heightened state of toughness, Tekk took full account of the damages. He was certainly hit somewhere in the chest because he seemed to be in a state of mild paralysis, mainly due to the sheer pain associated with moving his left arm. He knew he'd taken at least one to the leg, too. It was so heavy, as if 4 times its normal weight. He unzipped his bullet-strapped camouflage jacket. How appropriate that he was dressed for war. Under his coat was a desecrated Black Hawk bulletproof vest. "Thank you, Father," Tekk said, grateful to be alive. The Kevlar had been touched mostly by the shrapnel from the shotgun blast, but also a few hollow points. The ceramic front plate was weathered. Russell heard the Velcro straps detach just as the blue Ford Explorer in front of them suddenly smashed on his brakes. "Shit," Russell cursed as he pumped his brakes. "Ah!" Tekk screamed as the violent shift of the vehicle took its toll on his body. "Take it easy, man," he instructed. "Take it easy," Russell yelled back. "You telling me take it easy? Mr. Shoot It Out with the cops in front of the whole fucking projects? You may as well did that shit on Channel 5, bro." Russell used the moment to vent. "Yo, Tekk, you be on some shit, son. I know you be on some shit, but you be on some shit. He looked back in the mirror to the man who seemed unmoved. "What we gonna do now, son? They gonna be looking all over for us." "That little bitch," Tekk said just above his breath, on a different wavelength. "Oh, now I'm a bitch?" Russell asked. "I'm talking about my daughter," he said, throwing his ringing cell phone away from him with disgust. "That was my daughter that came out of the elevator," Tekk explained while wrapping a dirty T-shirt from the trunk around his left leg. "She probably went in there and called the fucking cops," he added, sounding more like a thug than a messenger of God. "Why would your daughter think you killed your son?" Tekk went back to tending to his body. Russell wasn't expecting an answer. By now, he was familiar with Tekk's dance of discussion and his dominance therein, so he moved on as well. "You said take the Hamilton Avenue exit?" he asked as if he really didn't want to ask him anything else. "Yeah," Tekk confirmed as the car dipped into the Battery Tunnel, which connected the islands of Manhattan and Brooklyn. "Who told you come out shooting?" Tekk asked, apparently ready to talk. "What?" Russell asked, as if offended. "I wanted them to kill me," Tekk confessed. Russ laughed, as he peeped in the mirror, bearing witness to a single stream of bright blood sprung from Tekk's collarbone. He laughed more and shook his head. It was his chance to ignore the dumb shit. He reached around the front seat for his pack of Newports. He used his knees to drive for a moment as he lit his cigarette. 2 pulls later, Russell's nerves were settled. 2 more, and his mind was running at its normal pace. He began to contemplate whose lives he just lent his hand to snatch, or if they were actually dead. He saw one of the men he shot moving around before he drove off. That don't mean he ain't dead, though. He thought at the realization that shootouts in Harlem were nothing like they were depicted in Hollywood. That shit was crazy, he said to himself, as he realized that his heart rate had finally returned to normal. I need you to pull these bullets out of me, bro. Hell no, Russell said. I ain't no damn doctor. I thought you said that chick we were going to see was a nurse. Yeah, bro, but she don't get off till 7 in the morning. I'd be done bled to death by then, Tekk responded. Well, brother, you said you wanted them to kill you, right? Russell questioned facetiously, yet still somehow serious, because I ain't taking no bullets out you. 2:39 a.m. the next morning. This is a bad idea, Russell thought as he squeezed the cheap aluminum tweezers and steadied his hand. You ready? Yeah, go ahead, Tekk said in a tough, near-drunken spill. You sure you don't want to wait for that liquor to kick in a little more before we do this? Nah, man, come on, Tekk said, sure he'd consume enough Hennessy to wash away the pain. It was Russell's turn to toughen up. He drove the tweezers into the lacerated flesh on Tekk's upper chest. Tekk ingested the pain with his face. The tip of the tweezers easily connected with the small slug. It was necessary to bore it in the grip before tightening. Got it. Urgh! Tekk growled in a failed yell. The word went forth. 3:23 a.m. the same morning. Russell heard Tekk's bottle of painkillers dispensing another set of pills. He turned around to find Tekk swaying his head in misery. Oh, Allah, he moaned. That was my child, man. My son, my only son. I need you to explain the mystery of this to me, God. This your boy calling Allah. I need a clear sign on this. Clear sign. Tekk spoke into the Lord as if he were wearing Russell's ears. Sorry about your loss, bro. Russell took it upon himself to interrupt. Tekk wiped the tears from his face therein too. I want to know who did that to my son, he said before looking at Russell. You got my gun? I don't think you need a gun right now, fam, Russell said in an awkward role reversal. Let's just figure this out. He looked at the small, red brick-faced house across the street. What time this chick get in? Tekk supped up the residue of his crying before responding. She get off at 7. I guess she'll be here within an hour after that, he added before changing the course of dialogue. I fucks with you for what you did, though. Despite what I said earlier, you came out blazing, boy, Tekk said, now smiling slightly. No doubt, Russell confirmed, trying to play it cool. No doubt. We gotta get out of the state, Tekk softly declared, throwing back his head. His burnt flesh still digesting fresh blood. His eyes were overwhelmed with exhaustion. We're gonna hit the road tomorrow. They're gonna have checkpoints around the city looking for our asses today. So tomorrow, we out. 7:51 a.m. the same morning. There was no sleep under these circumstances, just points of drifting in and out of consciousness. The deeper it got into the morning, the harder the agony of the sting of coal on Tekk's bullet wounds. The deeper it got into the morning, the more constricting the car seemed to Russell, as if he were physically trapped in the lack of hope that came with this ordeal. The deeper it got into the morning, the dirtier the both of them felt, as more and more people strolled and stared inside the dirty old automobile. With each passing moment, the more embarrassing it all became. Although his back was hurting, he sat perfectly still, careful not to disturb the wrap of clothing protecting him from the winter blast. Russell wasn't sure if his leg was frozen beyond feeling or if it was numb from proper lack of circulation. I should have stopped and got gas, he thought, as he looked at the needle on the dashboard sitting below empty. Suddenly, Russell's heart became unsettled as the man outside on the cell phone peeped into the car for the third time. Russell looked at Tekk, who was tossing and turning until he decided there was no point in holding his eyes shut any longer. You see this dude? Russell asked. Son with the chihuahua? Yeah, he confirmed. I think he might be calling the cops. My dude, just relax. Right now, you just hot. Your mind playing tricks on you. Don't tell me to relax. He been looking in the car and talking on the phone for the past few minutes. I ain't making shit up, nigga. Well, what the hell he still doing on the phone if he calling the cops? Tekk asked while scrolling through a gym bag that was under his seat for extra clothing. 911 just need to know the crime and location. He slid a gray hoodie over the top of his head and sit back. That nigga ain't calling the cops. Just relax. Stop telling me relax, man, Russell snapped. That's her right there, Tekk said, eyeballing a red Ford Focus in the middle of parallel parking. The woman inside gathered the things before stepping out. Tekk pulled a section of his brown locks into a ponytail, brushed himself off, and applied some lip balm and scented oil. Hey, she ain't gonna be on no shit, Russell asked. If you mean, is she gonna freak out when she see two black dudes rolling up on her? Then the answer is no. This is my homegirl from college. She actually got a black boyfriend. Oh, yeah? Yeah, a cop, Tekk informed him before getting out. Russell departed the car as well. His boots were untied. The cigarette ashes on his shirt were sent away with the Bensonhurst wind. Jason? She asked as if she hadn't seen him in years, but were glad that wait was finally over. Wearing a black coat over green scrubs, she seemed to be the typical nurse. She's cute, Russell thought. Nice little butt for a white chick. Jason smiled, trying to look like anything but a fugitive fresh off a shootout. What's going on? Nothing, she said, reaching out to embrace him. The pain in Tekk's body resurfaced as he tried to reciprocate. Ah! He grabbed at his chest in excruciating pain. Let me guess. You're here for some sort of medical purpose? Yeah, he admitted. She shook her head like a parent at a mischievous child. Come upstairs. 11:19 a.m., the same day. Perhaps it was the exceeding calm in the living room that woke Russ, but he suddenly popped back to consciousness. It took a moment before he realized where he was at, almost lost in the optimism that his life was normal again. He could hear something of a pot touching the ranges of a stovetop. He lifted his heavy body and walked into the kitchen. Hello. He tried to turn down the bass in his voice. Stephanie grabbed at her chest. Oh my God, she said, exhaling after a moment of not being able to. She breathed again. You scared me. Sorry about that. I'm not used to having big. She waved around the aura of his broad physique, as if trying to avoid saying black men around here. She sped out instead. Would you like something to eat? She asked as she got it together. I don't mind if I do, Russell said. Okay, go wash yourself off in the bathroom. It's the second door to the right. She pointed to the rear of the apartment. En route, Russell saw Tekk laid across the bed in the guest bedroom under a light slumber. It wasn't until he got to the bathroom that he understood why Tekk had spruced himself up before leaving the car. There was blood splattered on his shirt. His lips were chapped. He needed a shave. I must have scared the shit out of that girl. He took a leak, washed his face and hands, and tried to dull down the story of his shirt by tucking it in and adjusting his collar. He noticed that he had spotted the nurse's otherwise spotless toilet seat. He cleaned his man mess and washed his hands once again. Then he stepped out. Tekk was no longer in the bed. He stood in the middle of the kitchen with a tight, just woke up face, scratching his scalp beneath his hair. Peace, he greeted. How you feel? Stephanie ascertained while preparing breakfast for them, wearing a Hunter School of Medicine sweatsuit and white slippers. All things considered, I feel all right, Tekk joked. My shoulder's still killing me, though, he said, testing the range in his arm. What's up? He asked Russell, who was behind him. About to get some food, he said, walking past. You all right? The prospect of eating put Russell in a lighter mood. Subhanallah, Tekk thanked the Lord in Arabic, ever grateful. I'm almost ready to make moves. Make moves? Russell asked, as if his frame of mind had suddenly gone sour. What is subhanallah? Stephanie asked. It means glory to God, Tekk answered Stephanie, then addressed Russell. Yeah, make moves, he confirmed with a seriousness in his eyes. Yo, my man, what exactly are you trying to do, for real? Russell asked with his own degree of seriousness. Stephanie began serving her guests, starting with 2 tall glasses of orange juice and eating utensils for the fish and home fries, which were just about done. Russell sipped at his OJ, but his stomach was eagerly awaiting the whiting frying a few feet away. Bro, those guys who shot me not gonna stop me from living my life and doing my work, Tekk said, as if he was speaking in code for Stephanie not to understand that those guys he was referring to were the boys in blue. Russell laughed as he had heard a complete joke. He shook his head and took another sip of juice. What? Tekk demanded. What you trying to be, the Diesel Bob Marley? Russell joked and cracked Stephanie into laughter. Even Tekk lent a smile as they all took their seats at the table. You're lucky you have all that muscle mass. It likely saves your life, Stephanie said while seasoning her home fries. Lucky I have muscle mass. That's oxymoronic, Tekk said. I curled the barbells and did the pull-ups to get this mass. That ain't have nothing to do with luck. He set the record straight. Isn't that something? The prophet, always talking about God's will and how God gives us everything, and now you're denying that he gave you your body and saved your life? Tekk bent his face with a hint of arrogance. I'm not denying he saved my life. All things happen by his leave. But Allah still gives us life and free will. He ain't just give me muscles. He gave me the opportunity to get muscles, he explained. Shit, I used to be skinny. Nobody was talking all that lucky shit then. Allah has his laws, seed time and harvest. I planted seeds. Yeah, he did his part, but don't undermine my efforts. Whatever, Jason, she dismissed him as she passed the plate of fries. Don't whatever me, Tekk pushed on. Russell thought to interject. Maybe this is the type of relationship they just have, he reasoned. That's the truth, Tekk said. You don't know God like I know him. Russell simply shook his head at Tekk's sentiments. Oh, you know God? So that's why people are shooting at you, huh? Probably over drug money or something. You know what? Tekk's jawbone clenched. Tekk, chill, let's eat breakfast, man, Russell said, nearly salivating over the fish Stephanie set in front of him. And for once, Tekk took his advice. Whatever, Tekk said, doing away with the whole thing as Stephanie stood to get the ketchup from the other side of the kitchen. Next, on WTZW News at noon, the seriousness of the anchor's tone breaking through the rolling credits of the concluding game show grabbed the attention immediately. Police are looking for Harlem-based rapper Architect, whose real name is Jason Jordan, as a shootout leaves 3 police officers recovering from gunshots. Stephanie froze. Her back was turned to the boys, who were seated at the table. She could feel their eyes glued to her, as if waiting her judgment. She walked straight ahead to the garbage and tossed the napkin in her hand. The news broadcast began, diving right into the top story. All eyes attended. Cops on the hunt this afternoon for Jason Architect Jordan, who allegedly murdered his own son, who was also a rapper by the name of J3. Tekk also shot 3 police officers as he fled the scene. Cops are also looking for Tekk's bodyguard, Russell Down, who also fired several rounds at police. Now, this all happened around 10 a.m. last night in the Taft housing projects in East Harlem. I think maybe we should get out of here, Tekk suggested as Russell finally prepared his plate. Russell absolutely deflated, looking at Tekk with disbelief. Hell nah. He began to shake his head until Stephanie concurred with certainty. Yeah, that's a good idea. Please leave. 12:42 p.m., the same day. They entered the car as soldiers would enter a tent at camp upon arrival from some arduous mission. Tekk did a 360 scope of the neighborhood. It was quiet. He started the engine and sunk himself into warmth. Russell pulled out his cell phone, disappointed that he didn't have any missed calls. He had forgotten to charge the battery as the noise bleeping indicated. Let me make a call on your shit, Tekk asked while slouched down to defrost. He dialed a number. Peace, brother. I need you to meet me at the crib tomorrow for Zora. Bring my wife with you. What the hell is Zora? Russell wondered as his stomach began to growl. Damn, man, we could at least have breakfast before you fucked that up, he said to Tekk as he took his phone back from him. I ain't fucked nothing up. That bitch been like that since college. I'm starving, bro. What we gonna do now? Russell asked. We gotta get out of New York, Tekk said with the gaze of a general fighting distress as he fixed his eyes through the foggy windshield. What we gonna do about breakfast? Russell asked, looking for Tekk to uphold their employer status and put up some cash. Tekk reached in his pockets and pulled out all his money, counting it up to $187. Bro, go get us some turkey, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches from the corner, he said, handing him a $10 bill. Tekk smoked a blunt while Russell was at the store. The remains, which filled Russell's lungs with secondhand smoke and a near contact high before he got situated in the back seat. Tekk was sitting in the passenger seat on extra chill. He didn't bother looking at Russell, which Russell always took offense to. He had a small calculator resting on one of his legs. Resting on the other leg was his ROM book with the $177 that he had to his name. Russell dug into his food. He let enough bullshit come between him and his empty stomach. We're going to get out of here, but I can't leave the city until I say goodbye to my girls, Tekk said. Whatever. Russell failed to speak, only concerned with enjoying his every bite. I'll be back, Tekk said, dipping out of the car. After reading the newspaper 2.5 times, Russell scooted down, giving attention to the approaching dark clouds. His spirit and mood became dark. He was on the run from the seemingly all-reaching arm of the law. A legal job was not a prospect. Not that he could find one before being introduced to Tekk anyway. Using his real name again was off the table. I could go to jail. They didn't die. He could put some type of case together for himself, he supposed. Many possibilities constituted his thoughts, perpetual thoughts until a suggestion of sleep found his way. His full belly and fatigued body were calling for more rest, so he gave in. 2:47 p.m., the same day. Peace, Tekk greeted, taking a seat behind the passenger seat. He was only wearing a fleece hoodie and jeans in the face of the brutal city chill. What's good? Russell asked, looking back and around him. Where you been? I went to cop some bud. Yo, fam, we on a run and all you can think about is smoking weed? Russell asked. You can't be serious. Tekk pulled out a black plastic bag from underneath his fleece and dropped it over the front seat. He dug back into himself and removed a small sandwich bag holding an ounce of marijuana from a pouch created between his belt and boxer shorts. Suddenly, the Lord sent the thunder from the heavens and a heavy downpour ensued. Raindrops slammed onto the car and onto the earth prominently. There's some food back there for us, Tekk said, motioning towards the bag on the seat. I need that bag back, though. Russell took out the Turkey Hero sandwiches, chips, snack cakes, and Snapples and handed Tekk the plastic bag. You see, Allah is taking care of us, Tekk said. Why you say that? He's providing us with cover, Tekk testified, looking out at the replenishment of the earth. And good sleeping conditions, he added, wiping a section of the dampening window. Russell looked around to see naught but the water of God. He glanced back at Tekk, who was obviously reaping the benefits of the painkillers that the nurse gave him. Russell grabbed one of the drinks and took a refreshing swig. His stomach was just about full. The seemingly ancient Indian chant from the FM radio station suddenly took over. It was T.I.'s instant classic, Live Your Life. The hip-hop sound commanded a moment of positive attention, a moment for a breath, and they both indulged. Russell suspected he wouldn't enjoy many more moments like this, free and at peace. You steady chasing that paper, so live your life. Tekk sang along like his cup was half full. Russell slammed his near-empty bottle of juice into the cup holder. He thought about his family. I could go stay with my grandfather, he thought as he checked the rearview mirror to gain some sort of insight into the manifestation of Tekk's plan. He was busy putting plots of weed together atop the plastic bag, apparently looking to turn his $100-something into $200-something. He cracked each of the baggies he bought apart from themselves and opened them like he had been doing this for many years. What this nigga think he gonna be out here selling weed when the police are all over the city looking for his black ass? Tekk stuffed one of the bags with bud after he put a few dimes together and took out the track phone he bought earlier. And we ain't got no money and he goes out and buys a damn phone? Peace. Chill with all that, baby. Yeah, I'm good. I need to see you. I'm going to take a little trip, Tekk said into the receiver. Russell's head was so heavy he felt unsure as to what to do with it. Meet me at the starting point of our last jog. Same time. All right, peace. Love you too, Tekk said before hanging up. He opened the door and tossed out the untrusty device away quickly. Who was that? Russell asked, as if it was somehow his business. My daughter. Yo, so that was your daughter who came to the elevator last night? Yeah, my other daughter, though, Tekk clarified. A slight smirk emerged on his face, as if he had a question that he'd rather not ask, but would soon give in to regardless. What? Russell probed. Yo, man, what the fuck you ran for? He spat out. What you mean? Russell asked, as if it weren't crystal clear. Tekk chuckled. Nothing, man. He waved it off, as if he sincerely didn't want to bother. Yo, fam, why would I stay there over somebody's dead body? Somebody come out their door and see us standing there. Guess who the first person they gonna assume killed a nigga? Tekk raised a strong grill, as if to caution Russell to be careful how he spoke about his deceased child. Yo, my fault, Russell astutely apologized. I keep forgetting that was your boy. That's the thing, he raised his voice. I ain't know. Just leave it alone, man. It is what it is. Russell began to second guess using his gun to defend such an asshole. He didn't even really know him that well. Just that he was revered for his understanding of the Quran, was a pretty good rapper, and had 3 children, and was trying to get into the farming game for God knows whatever reason. Russell joined Tekk's record company's skeleton security crew back in October. After passing a month-long probationary period, he was employed full-time for a measly $300 per week. Russell kept it real with himself. $300 is better than no bucks. And he had access to the car, gym, and was basically living with Tekk and his wife, which allowed him to save his money. As appreciative as he was, there was a voice in the back of his head telling him he could possibly continue. Looking at the dense downpour outside, it seemed to equate with his misfortune. He hadn't had a decent night's sleep in 3 days. He was still hungry. Something needed to give. 6:43 a.m. the next day. The effect it takes on your body is manifest, it's constant. I turn and twist, somehow keeping confidence and Allah in His designing where I fit into it. Every time Russell woke during the middle of the night, he found Tekk rapping to himself while looking out at the rain. He repeatedly brought his pitch down to a whisper, then near silence upon noticing Russell listening. This time, Russell lay undetected behind the cover of his closed eyelids as he tuned in. So it ain't about how much guap you got. Your stocks go flip and flop and have you tired from your neck trying to jump from the top. I used to miss hip-hop, but now I create it, so it's here. Even if it appears not. Beware, she's always near. Tekk was up, energetic, and flowing with a cup of tea in his left hand and pointing out his lyrics with his right. Russell twisted around. All right, that was hot, he confessed. Thank you, brother, Tekk said, almost shyly. He put his flow down. You want to go get something to eat before we hit the road? I would have got you something, but I ain't wanted to be all cold and shit by the time you woke up. Something in the moment of Tekk digging around his pockets made Russell feel like a kid waiting for allowance. Maybe Tekk sensed it as well. Maybe that's why he changed his mind. Matter of fact, he said, let's go together, bro. They walked down 18th Avenue. The sun was barely out, so they felt safe and conspicuous. Shit, Russell thought as the tall brown brother walking in their direction stopped dead in his tracks, struck with a noticeable sense of familiarity. What's good, family? Oh shit, Trev, Tekk said, looking up. What's the deal, black man? Trevor pulled back from their semi-hug and reconfirmed that he was looking at the durable Jason Architect Jordan. He shook his head as facetiously as he could. I'm glad you good. No doubt, Tekk smiled with humility. Trev looked him up and down. Son, they talking about they think they hit him at least 6 times, plus the shotty. I'm like, damn, my guy is gone. Tekk waved the whole thing off. I'm good, my G. What's up with you, though? I'm chilling, bro. You know me, Trev assured him in his own Brooklyn sort of way. Oh, Trev, this my man. Trev flagged him off. Chill, he said, waving his hands. That on the news ass nigga right there don't need no introduction. I ain't trying to be knowing no more about y'all situation than I already do. He looked at Tekk. And yo, y'all don't need to be walking down the block together, he said as if he were completely bugging for not considering as much. You still working? Tekk blurted out. You know I keep a job, my G. You don't think you can give me a job, do you? Tekk pressed straight up. This nigga, Trev said as if he preferred not to deal with Tekk on that level. Come on, man. I know a lot of y'all construction dudes be off the books. Tekk stayed on him. I need to make like 1,000 and get the hell out of the city ASAP, bro. I'm going to keep it 100 with you, my G. My manager probably will put you on because he need help with the painting. He looked Tekk up and down. His grill looked strange without the gold and diamond teeth he sported for nearly 2 decades. You know how to paint? Hell yeah, Tekk over-exaggerated. Not really, Russell completely under-exaggerated. All right, son, Trev said to Tekk as he gave him a business card. Come through tomorrow. 10:19 a.m., the same day. Tekk handed Russell the directions he printed out. I took one of them Percocets, so I might pass out, he said. Just remember to stay on the 80 to the 99, and then the 99 all the way there. Russell checked out the cover sheet from the printouts from the New Euclid Branch Library. You been to the library already? He asked redundantly. No, Tekk joked without smiling, not wanting to explain the obvious. He turned away from Russ in a manner favorable to his bullet wounds and closed his eyes. 1:18 p.m., the same day. Tekk tried to play it smart and scope out the scene beforehand, but his furthest neighbors were over a mile away in a small farm town of Asheville. The authorities were either coming or they weren't. They couldn't exactly hide out a warrant squad in this side of God's green earth. They proceeded, rolling slowly in a single narrow strip of dirt road that led up to the estate. Tekk's aim was to compare notes with his crew and put together a comprehensive plan. He also needed to get the essentials out of his home, and he had to be quick. For all he knew, the cops were on their way right now. He already had proof that they had been monitoring his moves for years now. It was just a matter of time. Margot was the first to greet them as they entered the large custom log cabin. Stump was staring out of the large bay windows, clutching his hands behind his back. He made his way over also. Allah wasn't ready for you, huh? Margot asked with brute black strength in his voice, embracing the dread. Tekk smiled through the pain that it took him to hug him. No, he didn't want me yet, brother. There's a big difference, he said in defense of the father who was free from all want. Margot exploded in a joyful cry. Allahu Akbar, he testified, as he often was compelled to do in Tekk's presence. LaRonda was in the kitchen leaning against a marble-topped island, playing things cool, the last to move for some reason. Russell began to feel the graduation in their circumstances, living through a shootout, not being seized by the police, seeing this day. It wasn't until he saw the look that Tekk and LaRonda exchanged that he was reminded of the bleakness of the nature of this reunion. We need to talk, she said to her husband before they departed up the stairs to the master bedroom. Russell flopped to the couch and let his head fall back. He kicked his feet up, not concerned with LaRonda's strict no-shoe policy. He thought he heard Margot ask Stump a question. It didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that nobody tried to disturb the nap he was about to take. A heavy blink of 3, he used his coat to cover him and quickly got his sleep on. 5:19 p.m., the same day. Yo. Russell came to consciousness in a highly disturbed state. He figured he couldn't have been asleep for more than a matter of minutes. Tekk stood in front of him. He wore a beige turban that looked like he imported it straight from the Middle East. His dreads set on his shoulders as he stood in command of the moment. Kobe Bryant ready. Keys in his hand, duffel bag in the other. He said, "Come on, we got to get out of here." 1 week later. It came to pass that Russell and Tekk reignited the fundamental alliance of their employee-employer relationship. Tekk was hired off the books to clean up behind the painters for Trevor's construction company. It came to pass that Tekk's son was laid to rest at Frederick Douglass Cemetery. Tekk sent flowers and prayers as he couldn't send himself. It came to pass that Tekk went back to selling weed, a move that was actually inspirational to him, as it was the same way he built his independent record company he owned. When his prepaid phone went off for a cell, it was only by God's grace. It had to have been, he thought, because he was following all the other rules, and Russell was certainly a witness, as he was present for every pre-dawn, sunset, and midday prayer that Tekk offered to God, performed without stint. He couldn't quite vouch for him being God's messenger, but he was certainly a man of faith, prayer, and inflexible purpose, as he dedicated his every waking moment to creating music. The police already kicked in Russell's mother's door, raided both of Tekk baby mama's cribs, and showed up to both men's last known places of employment. Still, the word went forth, and Tekk figured they had a good chance to stack some money and move out of the state safely as long as they continued to rise while laying low. And lay low they did, still sleeping in a beat-up old Buick, keeping away from any place of prior association. Tekk hadn't shouldered his dreads in days, keeping his shoulder-length ropes of hair squished beneath a black scully. He cut his beard, shed nearly 10 pounds living through it all, and he used the alias Jeremy at work. He made himself a harder target to identify. Russell had lost a gang of weight also. Not being able to hit the weights at the gym was taking its toll. His goatee had grown, along with his now small afro, into some shit that just needed to be brushed out and cut. His teeth were shading, and his skin health was jading also. The plan was to rent out a room that Tekk found on Craigslist for at least the duration of the holiday season. The rent and security deposit would take some saving to gather and would consume more than half of Tekk's weekly pay, but it was getting super cold in that Buick. And regardless of who was doing the praying, both men considered it a blessing to be less than 10 days away from having to kiss old man Winter's ass every night. Tekk got $400 from LaRonda, which fed them for the time being. He had to add $100 to the weed money he was making to the $500 he was getting next Friday from work to his savings of $300, and then they could move in. The word went forth. Tekk sat crooked, holding his left arm with his right, as if it were otherwise detached. He looked out at the window to the dark Bronx block they were parked on. "Bro, you want to make $10? He asked Russ. "What I gotta do, Tekk?" Tekk laughed faintly. "Forget it," he said, as he smirked like a master chess player. "I hate when you do that," Russell spit out. He was frustrated up to his eyeballs, his arms drawn into the body of his winter coat. Every which way he turned, he found cold. "Nah," Tekk said, "'cause you act like I'm trying to set you up or something. What I gotta do, Tekk? That's not how you accept a business proposal." "Nah, but you be acting like 'cause you got a good idea and now everybody's supposed to start jumping. That's not me, fam." "All right, bro, well then sit there and play it cool," Tekk said as if he were issuing a final warning. "What I gotta do?" Russell asked again. "So you want the offer?" Tekk asked for clarification. "Oh my God, I'm asking you what I gotta do, right?" Russell mildly exploded. "All right, bro." Tekk gave in to what he perceived to be irrational behavior. "Write this rhyme for me," he said, handing Russell his composition notebook. "Just record everything I say." After a brief moment of collecting his thoughts and allowing a piece back into his mind, Tekk began. "Bismillah." "Wait, what?" Russell interrupted. "Come on, son, how you spell that?" After Tekk spelled out and defined the Arabic word meaning in the name of God, they tried again. "Bismillah, because with your grace this man wouldn't have made it this far. I accept you as my God. Not that I..." He seized this flow to address Russell. "Yo, make sure you capitalize all the letters in God's name in there." "What?" "God," Tekk said. "Anytime you write God's name, anything referring to him, capitalize the first letter. And if you're writing God, capitalize all the letters." "Yo, fam, you keep adding rules and shit." "Brother, look, you could take the job or leave it. I'll keep my little $10. I'm not going back and forth with you all night." "You know what?" Russell said with his face screwed up. "Just 'cause I need the bread, I ain't gonna argue with you." Tekk spilled out into mild laughter. "But nah," Russell said. "Tekk, you be acting like 'cause you got bread that make you closer to God or something. What's the rest of the rhyme, son?" Tekk simply looked away. There was no way he'd be able to flow after such congestion. He sat back and mellowed out, suddenly feeling a need to smoke. What's the rest of the rhyme, son? I'm ready. Tekk waved him off, uninspired, frustrated. So now I can't get the money because you want to be all salty? Russell asked before looking out of the window near his left shoulder. He suddenly felt the need to stretch his legs. Shit, he said in his head. I'd rather be in jail where I could at least stretch my fucking legs. On the other side of the car, Tekk was mind rapping to whatever instrumental he was playing in his head, blocking Russell out, and Russ knew it. He knew the dread had come up with something better than he would have if it had been easy. Russell had seen Tekk do the same thing to his wife, his kids. He's fucking crazy, Russell considered. Everything about Tekk suggested that he was going to do a tremendous amount of work tonight. The pain didn't seem to be weighing him down so much. Russell could see the hip-hop reviving the Harlem-bred MC. His lips became live with thoughts. His eyes and mind were sharp. He was in his rap warrior mode. It was a sight to see. There was a spirit in his face, and it was alive with a sense of clarity and urgency. When he felt the car could no longer contain his energy, Tekk got up and left. The thud from the slam of the car door woke Russell the next morning. He opened his eyes. He had forgotten that he relocated to the back seat at some point during the night. He sat up. Tekk had a bag from McDonald's, his Quran, and his rhyme book, all of which he set on the passenger seat before he turned to Russ. You want to come to the front? That way we don't look like a bunch of hobos out here, he joked seriously. Russell climbed out of the back of the car. Taken off guard, he nearly toppled into the snow as his feet were so numb that he couldn't feel them hit the ground. He caught and situated himself. He took a step, nearly falling in the shock when he couldn't feel his foot in his boot. Your feet frozen? Tekk asked, handing him the hash brown patty and breakfast bagel. Without a word, Russell slammed his door. I'm about to go to work. What you doing today? Tekk asked. Russ shrugged, still silent. You got that list, right? Yeah, I got the list, fam, Russell said. Tekk gathered everything he needed for the day and got ready to depart. If you could find some time to get that started, that'd be good, Tekk said as he left out. 10:14 a.m. the same day. Tekk agreed to pay Russell $50 per week to cover his living expenses. What was Russell going to do? Say no? All Tekk asked was that he go to the library to send a bunch of emails and keep the car clean. Still, there was something in it all that made Russ feel like a little bitch. But as long as he could afford cigarettes and not starve, he was content. God awoke Russ, who opened his eyes to the usage time of the library computer as it was counting down below 1 minute. Oh, shit. He clicked to print the MapQuest directions. He tried to switch back to the window from his email, discovering that the computer was now froze. The timer ran below 30 seconds when he slapped the side of the monitor, drawing the stares of most of the patrons in the adult section of the Cortelyou Branch Library. 5 seconds, 2 seconds, the cause was lost. He grabbed his book bag and made his way to the remote room in the rear to finish his nap. 12:22 p.m. the same day. They made sure the coast was clear. Then they went through the exit and up to the roof. Trev rolled a blunt in less than 2 minutes and sparked the party. Each man got right after their first or second go-round. Trevor handed the blunt back to Tekk. I'm sorry about your son, he said, out of nowhere, stuffing his paws in his chest pockets of his coat. Thanks, brother, Tekk said humbly. What went down, my G? Who did him in? Trev investigated. I don't know who shot him. But how'd you end up shooting it out with the cops? Brother, I was in the daze. I don't know. I was just trying to kill something, Tekk confessed. I feel you, Trev admitted. He understood, at least to a certain degree, for he had never lost a child of his own. As he passed the ganja, Fox Street seemed to become alive in a cold, unique way. The calm and monotony of the old dirty rooftop all around him was a stark contrast of the action below. Trev stood to his feet. You ready? Tekk asked between sharp inhales. Nah, I'm saying, do you, but, kinda, he gave a polite hurry-up hand motion. Tekk took a last lingering pull and let the smoke sit for a second before getting back to the grind. It was straight business for the rest of the afternoon. Jose and Solomon did the painting, Juan and Hector did the cutting, Tekk cleaned, and Trev supervised. At 3 o'clock, the boys packed it all up and headed to the 2 train, where they would do it all again tomorrow. January 1st, 2009. Tekk knew something was stirring. Too many people were standing around for them to be paid. It was raining, a nasty New York morning. Peace, peace. What's good? Tekk greeted as he walked over. Although the guys were standing in a semicircle, Solomon took it upon himself to answer on their behalf. This punk-ass nigga Steve ain't show up yet, he said. Tekk looked around at the group of electricians and the Jamaican cement workers as Solomon continued. This man was telling me Steve owed him over $2,000. $2,000? Tekk asked, dumbfounded. Fuck that. Don't nobody owe you over $2,000 and it be their fault. How much you get paid every week? $500, Juan said. Chill, Tekk said, taking a step aside and a spit to the ground. I would have been beat son ass for my money. His shoulders and arms assumed the rigor of someone now in a fighting mood. Where's Trev? He asked, shoving his hands in his hoodie. I ain't seen him. Tekk stayed around for another hour before realizing what was up. When he got back to the car, Russell informed him that he only managed to get 3 of the 10 things on his to-do list complete. The money was going, and the hope was gone. If Russell had a focal point, it was unclear what it was. Tekk's focus was slipping. They just seemed to be deteriorating. They were freezing, they were dirty, sleep-deprived, aching. They were grown men sleeping in a car. Tekk drove anywhere other than here, anywhere just to be and pass the time. 7:40 p.m., the same night. Tekk still found a wherewithal to mumble raps to himself throughout the hours of the night. How fucking weird is this guy? Russell thought as he woke to Tekk's production rather angrily. What the hell are we going to do? He asked as if he snuck in a bowl of courage for dinner. Tekk looked him over mysteriously before he decided to respond. I am making music, bro. Making music? He sat upright, boldly addressing the dread. Yo, man, fuck that music. What we gonna do? We don't got no money, nowhere to go. Fuck that music. That shit ain't get you what you want yet. Leave that shit alone. Brother, let me explain this to you. Tekk proceeded like a peaceful Muslim, but a warrior nonetheless. There's a very particular purpose that God has me on this earth, and my purpose is inflexible. So I don't know what we gonna do. I'm gonna release an a cappella mixtape, inshallah, and keep living. Russell's face soured. On the run for shooting 3 cops? How you go? I shot 1 cop, bro. 1? Russell asked. So now you trying to put 2 bodies on me? Shit, nigga, you trying to put 3 on me? Tekk came back. And ain't none of them dead, so don't say bodies. He mocked quotation marks with his fingers. I know I shot 1 of them. If you got 1, then that leaves 1 motherfucker standing. And I can't definitely say I didn't shoot that 1 motherfucker. I see what type of shit you on, son. Tekk exploded with energy, looking Russell in the dead of his eyes. If you was telling the truth, then why would you feel the need to say that? Tekk, yo, you a fake-ass nigga, Tekk declared before grabbing his composition book and a bottle of painkillers out of the ashtray and leaving. Stubborn-ass nigga gonna cut off his nose to spite his face, Russell thought, watching the dread limp away. He'll be back soon, he said, as the temperature was declining towards the teens. He ain't got that much pride. Tekk came back creeping to the car at 11:15 with a large dusty almanac and a plastic bag. He set the almanac on the hood while he fiddled around for his ringing cell phone. Peace. Russell could hear him through the interior. He climbed in, handed Russell the plastic bag in his hand, and dug into his underwear for a Ziploc bag full of weed. Surprised by the apparent peace offering, Russell dug into the bag and pulled out the $3 worth of turkey and a loaf of bread and commenced making a sandwich. There was a jar of mustard, 2-gallon bottle of water, and a new Discman in the bag as well. Yeah, but she should know I wouldn't do no shit like that. I don't know what she was thinking. Hold on, Lucretia. Tekk said into the phone. Be easy with that. I spent my last money on that. he warned Russell before getting back to his call. Hello? Yeah, I do appreciate that offer though. But at the end of the day, I still did that other thing, if you know what I mean. So I'm about to be out in the wind for a minute. But I'll be in touch though. And if you see Gwen, please tell her I said to call me. After swallowing his sandwich nearly whole, Russell sat back in the seat and lit a cigarette. He rolled his window down as to be considerate as he blew his nicotine cloud into the night. 2 hours later. Like clockwork, the instant Tekk's painkillers wore off was the instant the vehement, ever-present pain returned with vengeance. Forced awoke. He smoked half a blunt and indulged in the only CD that he had for his diss man, The Lox, We Are the Streets album. Yo, man, Tekk called out over the raging blast from his headphones, assuming Russ was awake and listening. If you trying to roll, I'ma hit Baltimore. I got some people out there. I could go out there, sell my chronic, finish my project, and figure out what's next. Whatever, Russell said too low for Tekk to hear him, but his mood reflected the lack of enthusiasm. He sat back. There was something in his gut that wished that he kept his black ass in school. He was hungry. He wanted food, not that dry turkey Tekk had in the bag or any other shit he'd been shoving in his mouth for the past 2 days as to not starve. At length, 2 men riding on bikes in the dead of the winter stopped in front of the car. Check this out, the one in the red Columbia jacket said to his comrade. Come on, man, the other man said, only concerned with getting out of the cold. The curious brother opened the almanac that Tekk unmindfully left on the hood and flipped through the pages. Russell and Tekk watched quietly from inside the car. Wow, look how big Asia is, he said with a heavy narcotic lean in his pitch. Yo, man, I'm not taking you with me no more, the friend said while making his way over. You get high and want to stop and look at every fucking thing. Tekk's movement alerted them, finally, to his presence. They both looked in the car. Oh, sorry, one of them apologized, backing off with his eyes now fixed on the plots of marijuana Tekk had carelessly sprawled on the plastic bag in the passenger seat. Look, he got weed, he informed his friend. That ain't none of our damn business what he got. Tekk rolled down his window. I gave you 2 fat dimes for 15, he pitched, not concerned with being discreet. Hell yeah, they agreed unanimously. 1:11 a.m., the same night. Quiet storm grew melodically from the stereo. They were parked somewhere in the Howard Beach section of Queens. The boredom and monotony began to chisel at them. Tekk wasn't inspired to rhyme. Russell wasn't inspired to do anything. Yo, man, why'd you want to die? He asked while playing with the drawstring on his coat. Tekk had trouble finding the right words. Life, I guess, appears to be overwhelming from time to time, brother. Yeah, life is hard, but you deal with it, right? You go through it. Tekk sat in silence, clearly not looking to get psychological. Russell carried on. I'm sorry about your son, man. That shit is fucked up. But you know he's in a better place. Inshallah. What you mean, inshallah? That means if it be the will of God, he'll admit my son to his nearness, Tekk said. Yeah, but why wouldn't he let him into heaven? You wildin'. It's not for me to assume or even have an opinion about any decision Allah makes, brother. Russell chuckled and pressed on. Yeah, but your son ain't kill nobody or spend his life doing a bunch of sinful shit. Jesus died for his sins, so he definitely going to heaven. Tekk laughed aloud, as if someone told him a complete joke. Just leave it alone, bro. Nah, nigga, speak your mind. Russell pushed even further, since there was nothing else to do. All right, bro, Tekk accepted reluctantly. I tell you what's on my mind. I'm thinking there's something in those cigarettes that's making you stupid. You see that book? He pointed to the green and gold Quran sitting next to him. You need to take it and read it until you're smart. Oh, word, I'm stupid, son? Russell asked extra New York. You're a grown-ass man without knowledge of yourself, Tekk said with all the arrogance in the world. I mean, look at how you live. You just wait for directions. Wait for directions. You don't got no guidance. No guidance? I see why nobody will hire you. Wait. Hold the fuck on. Nobody will hire me because I don't have no experience, Russell insisted. Tekk looked at him as if he were one of his children. Okay. Yo, I'm out of here. Fuck you. It was Russell's turn to leave the car and let his emotions drive him. 7:44 a.m. the next day. Russell flipped his hood over his head. Before the train pulled into the station, he was fast asleep. Russell awoke at the last stop, but went back to sleep as the train turned around to head back from whence it came. The 3 train, packed with people at 14th Street. Russell grew uncomfortable as he grew more self-conscious. He took his hood off and tried to blend in with the normal, non-homeless commuters. At 42nd Street, he serendipitously decided to pay a visit to his grandmother, the only family that he had left in New York. 9:02 a.m. the same day. It took nearly a half hour for the bus to arrive at Jamaica Center. When he got off, he smoked a bone on a side street before sucking up the courage to ring his grandmother's bell. Russell? Uncle Junior questioned as if he was certain it was him, but uncertain as to why in God's name he would be at their door. What? Russell could hear his grandmother's voice from behind Uncle Junior, but couldn't see her yet. How you doing, Unc? Russ asked. I'm fine, he answered with a certain pride in his tone. I wish I could say the same for you. Russell, Grandma made her way to the door. You shot the policeman, them? Grandma, the news likes to twist and turn things, was all he could conjure up, hoping it would suffice. Rosh, you know me never approve of such things, Russell. Can I come in, Grandma? Russell ate and sat around, trying to be invisible. His grandma and uncle went upstairs a little past 7 p.m. It was then that Russell snatched a sheet from the linen closet and found his way to the back room of the basement for some sleep that could only be had at Grandma's. 3:17 a.m. the next morning. Russell heard the commotion upstairs. The police. He jumped up. He ran and climbed up the short wall in front of the basement window. He stayed put, wedged just above sight from the window and just below the ground level vent. He waited not only for the police to leave, but his grandmother and uncle to warily return back to sleep, as he knew it had to have been one of them to inform the police of his whereabouts. 4:46 a.m. the same day. Walking down a side street with no particular destination, Russell began to look around at the terrain differently. The private houses in their land, front yard, backyard, doghouse, shed. He began to somehow feel entitled to some. He sat on the bottom step of the stairs of a row house. His legs were stinging. I could just turn myself in, he thought. At least I can get some food, a place to sleep, and I wouldn't be fucking alone. He looked up at the door on the side of a vacant house next to him. I wonder if they leave those doors unlocked. He scoped the windows before getting up. Nobody there. He walked over and smoothly tested the doorknob, which gave no resistance. His heartbeat skipped at the thought of privacy and warmth and somewhere to put his body. He looked around and dipped inside. He sat on the floor resting, thinking, crying, freezing, starving, itching, stinking, dying. And that's when he made his decision. 1:07 p.m. the next day. Russell walked straight to the front desk, hung his head. The sole attendant was so busy flipping through papers that he showed no interest in Russ whatsoever. I want to turn myself in, Russell said plainly. The officer walked over. What did you do? I shot a cop. 11:34 p.m. the same day. Russell noticed that they were all wearing sleek black leather gloves, and that didn't sit well in his heart nor his stomach. But his mind saw the more peaceful reason as to why a gang of officers with rigorous grills were in front of his cell. Maybe they need to check me again. Maybe they're looking for contraband. Trouble was, Russ had done a stretch before. He knew how cops got down when they had to exact retribution for one of their own. A tall white boy came in first, at least 6'3". All Russ wanted was for him to look him in the eyes, to say something, but it didn't come. He kept his eyes away, as if he didn't want to get personal about the sin he was about to commit. Before Russell could ponder any more on the stranger's eyes, he saw an overbearing black officer make his way in. Russell's heart was lost. If this was going to be some bullshit, he was going to be on the shit end of the stick. "Wait, I can give y'all a Tekk," he pleaded as another thug officer came in. As Russell's attention went to notice the third killer enter, the first cold-cocked him with such force that he knocked him straight off his bed. Russell didn't see anything else. He was able to feel their wrath for a few more excruciating moments. They ravaged his back, his ribs. He dealt with a few gut punches. One of the officers grabbed him by his fro and crashed his head into the steel toilet bowl. A boot stomp came down from there, crushing the upper vertebrae of his spinal column, breaking his neck. Chapter 2. 250 miles. LaRonda Lioness Williams. "We're gonna go platinum, yo." Tracy Giles. January 9th, 2009. Sharp pain stung from her side. She had cramps and a stomach ache. LaRonda was already awake, dealing with the toils of pregnancy when she saw their headlights steep through the darkness of pre-dawn. She sat in the guest bedroom window and thought, how dramatic. Just like most other things surrounding her husband, there was never a dull moment, just brief periods of calm before storms. She made her way to the living room, carrying herself like she was in her third trimester, although she was only 8 weeks pregnant. None of the symptoms showed up until she got confirmation that there was new life within her 2 days ago. After that, there came unusual soreness in her mouth, along with nausea and, of course, a hefty increase in her appetite. LaRonda found the confidence to chill out, knowing there wasn't much she could do. Tekk was nowhere around. Everything else had been cleaned up for a matter of months. To make herself perfectly visible for potential testosterone-driven, trigger-happy officers, she took a seat on the second-to-last step of her spiral staircase, which would make her the first thing they would see. They barged in no different than she expected, a no-knock warrant. She picked that door out from Home Depot herself, and they just tore it up indiscriminately. "Police, get down! Get the fuck down!" The full-size officer pushed LaRonda to the carpet and pressed his heavy knee into her back. "Stay down!" he shouted again for the sake of hearing himself. LaRonda still hadn't said anything. They weren't trying to hear anything right now. They were trying to catch somebody slipping and shoot until it was time to reload. "Where is he?" "He's not here," she yelled, pulling her face from the floor. A team of officers ascended up the staircase. LaRonda heard the ruckus of glass shattering and objects hitting the wall and floor. Seemingly out of boredom, the female officer in the living room kicked a Lalique vase LaRonda brought back from England. Seeing that her work caused no damage, she raised a heavy construction boot and crushed the work of art with her foot. Before LaRonda could fully digest that, one of the officer's machine gun barrels inadvertently smashed and shattered a section of the mirrored wall unit. She smiled and shrugged her shoulders at one of her partners before intentionally breaking the adjacent mirror. Similar to a domino effect, they all became less careful, more destructive, breaking everything they came across, including the portraits on the wall, Tekk's gold plaque, candy dish, blender, the screen door to the backyard, and computer monitor. It is what it is, she told herself, as her husband often would. So she didn't bother getting emotional about any of it. After all, 3 of their own were still recovering from life-threatening injuries. It was what it was. The officers who went upstairs came back down to the delight of the mess. The short, Heavyset One pointed his assault rifle towards the custom brass ceiling and discharged his weapon. "You don't?" he yelled before firing again. "Fuck with," and another shot. "Cops." They all gradually made their way out. "Tell him he's not going to make it in alive," the last one said before leaving. The home that she worked so hard to establish had been intricately invaded. As she sat where they left her, LaRonda was reminded of the verses from the Holy Quran that prophesied of these events. God promised to allow the children of Israel's enemies to enter the innermost parts of their homes and meet with destruction all that fell into their wake. Her husband too warned her of such of a calamity. She figured such misfortune had eluded them because of their earnest attempts at piety. There she was in the midst of the proof. She could only imagine what upstairs looked like. She stood to her feet, only to break down and cry. The word went forth. 10:38 p.m., the same night. If it were the police, they wouldn't have been nearly as quiet. If it were robbers, they wouldn't have been nearly as loud. LaRonda slid across her sheets to the side of the bed, reached between a mattress, and pulled out the shotgun. She loaded around, upset that she still had to live like this. Opening the room door like a trained detective, LaRonda quickly swept the area in front of her with the barrel of her weapon. Her stance was firm. She crept over the threshold and looked down the banister. As she was fairly certain that the intruder wasn't on the upper level, she started cautiously down the staircase. Midway down, her peripheral picked up on a large rodent of some sort, dipping between piles of rubbish in the living room. The creature, which LaRonda could now identify as a raccoon, snuck toward the edge of the treadmill and looked directly at LaRonda before she tried to blast its head off. Her shot destroyed the back end of the treadmill and the corner of the wall. She pumped and fired again, this time dead on, as she correctly projected the course the animal would take and met it there with a fatal blast of buckshot. Before she had the chance to feel any sort of way about what she'd done, a noise from the kitchen behind her shook her up. She turned around, ran upstairs to the bedroom, where she locked herself in. 6:03 a.m. the next day. LaRonda checked everything meticulously, just as Tekk would have her do in their days of hustling. She had a purse. She double-checked to make sure her wallet was in it. She had her keys, a cell phone, cash, and a pocket knife. She locked the front door, although anyone with the will to do so could wiggle their way through the gaping rupture left by the police. She was nearly certain that this would be the last time that she would see this house that she never got the chance to call home. The confines of her automobile provided a sense of safety. The sun wasn't yet up. LaRonda let the Volvo warm up as she set her GPS to 110th Street in Manhattan. Sitting back, she looked at the fig trees out front. She was blessed. She couldn't deny it. Things had come crashing down rather abruptly, granted. But she reflected on the path and looked back at the peaceful piece of land they acquired. She was forced to smile. Maybe I will come back someday. I'd have to find a way to keep up with the taxes, though. She shifted her car in reverse and made her way. She filled up the tank at Mart 1. Before leaving the store, she devoured the pre-made peanut butter and jelly sandwich and Gatorade, which she had been strangely craving. She felt extra alone, trekking across the bare parking lot out front, back to the car. After a wrong left turn, she was finally on the interstate. Every mile that she covered was welcoming her back to the filthy, confining, all too familiar Harlem ghetto. The cruise control was set on 65. Just as she got comfortable, the sky began to fall with rain. She activated her windshield wipers as the heavy, frozen precipitation plunged. The stereo was off, exaggerating her feeling of seclusion. She picked up her phone and dialed her husband's number and again was connected directly to his voicemail. 11:14 a.m., the same day. Opening the front door, Aunt Ramona barely acknowledged her before turning and crawling back into her deep hole. She just looked at LaRonda's bags, grunted from the pit of her stretch-marked stomach, and walked away. Whatever, LaRonda thought. There was a feeling in her gut that her aunt was somehow pleased that LaRonda's wave of success had apparently crashed ashore. The old apartment seemed to be exactly as she left it, not an iota cleaner. LaRonda's room was the only thing that had changed. Aunt Ramona was now utilizing the space to put some more of her shit in. There were 2 plastic file cabinets with God only knows what in them, directly in the middle of the floor. Old clothes thrown over the bed, and a broken stationary bike with more clothes on it. There was virtually no room for LaRonda. She walked over to the window. It was then that she felt the relief of being back among the modern world. It was slow out there, but it was still Harlem. Something in the energy of her spirit was calling her outside. The same energy was causing her to reflect on her past. While dealing with the death of a rival gang member in 2005, LaRonda promised God that if he gave her opportunity to get out of this neighborhood, she would make the absolute most of it. So it came as no surprise when Tekk took interest in her vocal abilities that she was early for every studio session, jumping on every vacant hook, and repping NYCMC hard. It was their time, it seemed. The mere thought pulled a smile from her face. All the highways they'd been on, the hotels, even the back alley motels that they patronized when things were slow, were better than this dirty little roach-infested place. They pushed it, and LaRonda knew without her contribution, they wouldn't have made it as far as they did. Granted, Tekk obviously had some sort of special relationship and blessings from God. It was still a team effort, and God had given her to Tekk for a reason. She giggled beneath her breath. I mean, look how I took care of the house, managed the street team, maintained the website. Shit, I'm pregnant with his son. She exhaled in another private laugh, sitting down on the lower half of the bunk bed. She gave her unborn child its first attention of the day. She wanted a boy. It would simply be befitting in every way that it was a boy, starting with the fact that Tekk had just tragically lost his own son. He already had 2 living daughters, and LaRonda wanted a boy since she herself was a little girl. The boy's name was going to be Rakim. Tekk didn't know that yet, but it was what it was. The name Rakim represented the essence of hip-hop, her first love. Rakim was the first champion of the game, an MC who no one had ever seen smile, an MC clearly before his time, raw, paid, and a Muslim son. "What's up, R?" she asked, looking down at her stomach before falling back to the bare mattress. Everything about this place brought back the passion of her original mission. Before the beef, before the clothes defined the character, before the race to riches, she just wanted a son. As she got older, she realized that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness were not free rides. Not the best student, and certainly not one to conform to the rules, LaRonda found herself in trouble more so than away from it. The solitude of being on punishment with only access to the radio was what harnessed her love for music. Black Sheep, Daz Effects, the Ghetto Boys. Her collection of cassettes was deep, and just not limited to rap. There was SWV and Vogue tapes. She even had Shaka Khan somewhere in there, and Whitney Houston's first album. And her mastery, well, her understanding and expression of music took her around the country. All the while, people like Aunt Ramona thought she was just playing around. If they only knew, she thought. Their independent record label now had a certified gold album behind its name and thousands of other CDs sold. They bought property, provided jobs. It was all good until that night. And how fucked up it was that that night came during LaRonda's season. She had just begun working on her first album that week. Now it was all on pause. Everything was on pause. This is a test from God, she told herself. Yet she was struggling to identify the full purpose. Before that night, Tekk had begun to fully develop his relationship with Gwen. Is he afraid of success? She wondered briefly before relieving her mind of the whole burden. You can never tell what's on a man's mind. And if he's from Harlem, there's no reason even trying. She sang the lyrics to Cinda Williams' Harlem Blues. But she wasn't about to sing the blues. She was young, black, and damn near famous. Also, there were all sorts of revenue streams she opened up for the record company, which meant there was money on the table. She just had to dry her eyes, find the right pair of jeans, check her Facebook page, and contact Armani. 12:03 a.m. the same night. The hood still had an explosive element in its air. 14-year-olds were creeping around out there with hand cannons beneath their coats. Fiends smoked out. Hustlers, stick-up kids, cops, hoes, pimps, crips, bloods, boosters, con artists, ex-cons, future cons, confidential informants, stray cats, rats, bums, crack rocks, skateboarders, hoarders, loiterers, undercovers, dykes, down low niggas, old niggas, young niggas, idol worshipers, Jesus followers, and Muslims out there. LaRonda was back home, where the orange from the do not walk signs mixed with the dim from the street signs created the colors of slow and fast death. Harlem was living, barely, but alive. LaRonda sat in her luxury sedan and got her mind right. Usually, she would either be rolling or smoking a blunt right now. But the fetus in her womb changed that, at least for now. Dream and wish as she may, she couldn't hide from her heart. And in her heart, LaRonda wasn't 100% sure that she would be having this baby. After all the uncertainties that entered her life this past month, she hadn't completely ruled out the painstakingly possibility of aborting. In either event, she was going to respect her unborn child. It was fast-paced outside, even for a considerably slow night. Harlem seemed almost a foreign world to her, with its games, its tricks, and deceptiveness. LaRonda had been deep in prayer for the past 2 years, steadfastly. She had been moving at a steady pace with a nourishing balance of praise, pleasure, and business. She needed to toughen up to be out here. That was for certain. She was still with Allah. That too was for certain. The uncertainty was in all these project buildings scraping into God's sky. The life in her stomach and her marriage. And then there was Jessica, the gang she helped form in high school. The crew was nearly 5,000 strong, and despite her efforts to restore the sisters back to their original mission of empowerment, not terrorism, they were getting it on. The girls who she did convince to stop hustling and banging were flagging the white set. White set members could be identified by a brown-on-brown Louis Vuitton scarf as opposed to the original, more out, sky blue bandana. Last count on white set was around 94, 12 of which was on NYCMC payroll before the shit hit the fan. LaRonda's BlackBerry trembled as a new voicemail was waiting for her. She found it impossible that her phone had rang without her hearing it. She picked up the handset and pressed the one key until she was connected with her inbox. Shit, she steamed. I missed Tekk's call. All he said was that he loved her and he'd call back. His non-talking ass, why didn't he tell me where he is or something? She asked herself, knowing that's just how he was. There was also a message from Armani about an interview on Hot 93.3 tomorrow. Oh, Hot 93.3. The thought reminded her that she could always feel a pulse of NYC on its #1 radio station. She gave power to her stereo. Hi, this is Don at the Diva with your Hot 93.3 news update. The family of Russell Down, the bodyguard rapper architect, is filing a lawsuit against the New York City Police Department after Down suffered life-threatening injuries while in police custody last week. The police commissioner maintains. LaRonda's cell phone rang. Hello? She answered. Hello, where are you? We need to do this interview on Hot 93.3 tomorrow morning. Okay? Now she's going to ask you some questions about what happened that night. What? Don't worry, Amani cut her off. I already told him that you didn't see anybody shoot anybody. Don't worry. Just got to go up there, answer a couple of Rudy 2 questions. Try not to smile. But baby girl, try not to cry. Now, are you okay? Have you heard from Tekk at all? No, LaRonda lied. Not that she'd heard from him nearly enough. She honestly had no idea where he was. Not that she would tell him if she did. Okay, so tomorrow at 8:30 sharp, text your whereabouts 2 hours beforehand. I'll send the Suburban, okay? Be good, doll. She turned the volume down on the radio. An interview, she wondered, readily spotting God's light at the end of the tunnel. She could use the airways to gain support for Tekk, and she could slip in her new mixtape to one of the DJs. 1:01 a.m. the same night. Monica Williams played the block at the wee hours of the morning. That's when she found it best to pursue her particular happiness. Amongst the hustlers and the people waiting for the elevator, or on the 7th floor terrace where she often slept. They hadn't seen each other in nearly 2 years, but one wouldn't know it from their half-hearted embrace. What's up? Monica asked, nearly as rough as one of the dudes. Nothing, LaRonda responded. Mommy, you need a coat on, she added, looking at her mother, who was braving the frigid weather with little protection. Fuck all that, she flung the notion away. I'm a warrior, I'ma hold it down out here. Even fully aware of the folly of her mom's testament, LaRonda smirked with pride at the brave heart that bore her. LaRonda stood off to the side and looked out the lobby window. After many years of dealing with her mother in her obviously less than grateful, homeless, drug-addicted state, LaRonda learned the intricacies of getting her mom to be comfortable around her. She stopped looking to judge her. She was who she was. As Tekk less than eloquently put it, she ain't what you want her to be or what society wants her to be. She's a product of her decision, and all those little motherfucking decisions total up to the truth and a proof. Where's all that weed y'all got? Monica asked from the other side of the lobby, getting back to life. Weed we got, LaRonda asked, truly puzzled. But as soon as she said the words, she was reminded of the 20 pounds that they got after Tekk got 50 grand from winning Summer Jam last year. LaRonda, don't bullshit me. You know damn well I know what's up out here, Monica said. Those 2 gram 20 bags Tekk had out here was doing good. We can be getting paid. LaRonda thought on it as her mother went back to getting busy minding everyone else's business. Look, that nigga Calvin got another girl coming over here. Ain't that something? She asked, walking outside. Ma, you need a coat on out there. Don't tell me what I need. Shit, I'm a grown fucking woman. Even for all her strength, LaRonda was touched that her mother could speak to her like that. But she wasn't surprised. That was the course that Monica's conversation took with anyone after a few minutes. Her diction had bent her mind. So she just saw things crooked. All right, Ma, well, I'm going to talk to you later, LaRonda said before getting on the elevator and going back upstairs. 2:25 p.m. the next day. Dinette had on bright red lipstick, which made her teeth to gleam all the more white. She sat up right into the microphone and spoke to the hip-hop nation. So Lioness, she referred to LaRonda by her stage name, can you tell us what happened that night? Everyone is anxious to hear from someone who was actually there, how it all went down. LaRonda shoved her bottle of water to the side and sat up to the microphone dock situated in front of her. Yo, straight up, Dinette. She employed a smooth, low tone. We was sitting in the car, and Russell comes up to us and tells us, okay, now, Russ, who is that? That's the bodyguard? Right, LaRonda confirmed. He was part of our security detail. Okay, so Russell was like, yo, somebody just got shot in the building. He's like, he don't know the dude, but he think Tekk knows him. Wait. So who's this he's talking about? This is J3 Jr. he's talking about. Oh, Tekk's son, for all of those who may not know, Dinette informed the listeners. Yes, and mind you, Russell didn't know that, so, oh, okay, so you guys didn't pay it too much mind. You're just like, right. And the next thing I know, there's these 3 white boys crossing in front of our car, and we're sitting there talking and whatnot, waiting for Tekk. Then all of a sudden we hear shots. Boom, boom, boom. Wow, and who's doing the shooting? Tekk and the officers are shooting at Tekk. But Tekk is shooting back, right? Dinette sought to confirm previous reports. I really can't tell you all that, Dinette. LaRonda played it smart. I really didn't see all that. As if she understood, Dinette moved along. Okay, so who killed J3? We still don't know, Dinette, LaRonda said softly. Wow, this is all so crazy. All right, so we're here with Lioness at NYCMC. We got to go to a commercial break real quick. Keep it tuned in right here, Hot 93.3, New York's #1 station. LaRonda's stomach flipped so fast that she could barely catch it. She gagged into a hand and shot herself straight forward to the garbage can on the other side of the room, put her face in it, and emptied her breakfast therein. A string of vomit-saturated saliva attached itself to her bottom lip. She wiped it off and attempted to inhale, only to find the nausea still active in her gut. She coughed up the remainder of her stomach in a sharp gallop, and it was gone. We're back, Dinette the Neva, Hot 93.3 on your radio dial. LaRonda spit all that she could into the pail and exhaled again. She was good. For those just tuning in, we're sitting here with Harlem's own Lioness of NYCMC discussing what happened the night rapper J3 was killed. It was the perfect transitory rhetoric for LaRonda to smoothly get back to the interview. Back in front of the mic, she shook her head in mellow contemplation of her stepson, who was nearing her in age. So what's things like between you and Tekk now? Are you in communication with him? Dinette asked. No, I haven't spoke to Tekk. LaRonda's full statement was stern, as if there was silently warning there that there was no room for any more questions of the sort. I respect my husband. I really do, you know. There's just certain things that we need to... No, I feel you. Dinette agreed and moved on. So where'd you guys meet? Because there's a little bit of an age gap there. The building I grew up in is right across the street from the building he grew up in. But funny thing is, we didn't connect until a few years ago on a music tip. Oh, okay. Tekk was the first person to recognize, harness, and channel my gifts as an artist. And for that, I will always have a certain level of loyalty towards him. No doubt. Okay, now, I know Tekk always comes heavy on the spiritual tip with his music and his speech. He's like always talking about God. Yeah, Dinette, LaRonda confirmed. I remember I seen him in Harlem Lane selling his mixtape one time. He must have had around 20 people around him listening to him talk about Abraham and how he was willing to sacrifice his first son. The studio filled with laughter. I was like, yo, this brother is deep. Yup, that's Tekk, LaRonda concurred, still laughing. So you guys are serious Muslims, huh? For all intent and purposes, we're basically Sunni Muslims at this point. You know, we got our points of sin, but we're heavily grounded in God. Now, what is that, Sunni and No, not Sunni as in Sunni Shiite. I said Sunnah. The Sunnah it's the practices and habits of the Prophet Muhammad, left for us to follow if we choose. Okay, so you guys follow those practices. Yes, I mean, they've become an inherent part of our lives, but Tekk has his own practices, as you know. Yeah, man, he's like a spiritual G or something. The laughs and giggles returned, and LaRonda participated. If only you knew, she thought. If only you knew. Okay, we're going to take some calls from our listeners out there. People's been calling in on our private line all week like, yo, what's up? Is Tekk dead? Who killed J3? It's been a lot of drama up here, so we're going to open up the phone lines right now. State your name and where you're calling from. Hi, Dinette. This is Jasmine from the Bronx. I've been a fan of NYCMC movement since Tekk first came out, and I believe he's innocent. Anybody with eyes and ears can see the changes that man has made in his personal life, and it doesn't seem like something he would do. Right, Dinette said into the microphone. I just want to send my support to Lioness. I know God is going to be there for you. Oh, thank you so much, boo, LaRonda said with an open heart. Now I got to ask, are you pregnant with his baby? LaRonda froze. She could see Armani in her peripheral, raving no. No, I'm not pregnant, she said, smiling at Dinette. 22 minutes later. LaRonda placed the earphones on the table, and that was that. All right, Dinette, thanks for having me. No doubt, I am definitely going to make sure we get this some spins, Dinette said, flashing the CD in her hand. And keep in touch. Will do. Armani was waving LaRonda toward him like Satan himself. You did good, baby doll, he said, jolly in his sleek gray suit. Why'd you want me to tell him I wasn't pregnant? She whispered. Trust me, right now, baby doll, you're the sweetheart of the city. You keep your head together and your body tight, he said, pointing to her pregnant belly, and we could spin this to huge record sales. 5:52 p.m., the same day. LaRonda was physically moved back when she saw her. It was like staring straight into Tekk's face. She did a bad job of hiding the fact that she was speechless. Can you take me to my father? Gwen asked from beneath the hood on the other side of the threshold. How rude, LaRonda thought to herself. She didn't even say hello. But if there was one to be excused for being discourteous, it was certainly Tekk's youngest daughter. She seemed to embody his body of dope music with her flow and overbearing style. Come in, LaRonda said, walking into the living room. She was only 15 and already nearing LaRonda in height. Gwen bent over, kicking the water off her yellow and green hunter boots. She shook out her long curly hair as if she were the heiress to a throne. I heard you on the radio today, she said. LaRonda nodded her head in understanding, making her way to the back of the apartment. Gwen followed. I feel so stupid thinking he would kill Junior, she admitted while removing her scarf. Is he mad at me? He'll be all right. LaRonda waved off the thought of indulging in her husband's complex mind. They walked past Aunt Ramona's cave as she had babbled her life away on the phone. LaRonda made strides cleaning her old room. She offered her stepdaughter a seat on her small mattress. How you been? Gwen pressed the soft pink lips and the rare tender expression of herself. Okay, she said, the pain of her brother's death still fresh in her face. I'm sorry about Junior. Gwen nodded, swinging her book bag from her back to her front, saying nothing. LaRonda picked up her cell phone off the dresser and dialed Tekk's number. She was certain that the call would go straight to his voicemail, and she was right. I got your daughter here with me, she said almost secretly into the receiver. Call me back, she want to talk to you. Looking around, Gwen noticed the beautiful Quran tucked away in the far corner. You took your Shahada yet? She asked. LaRonda was impressed with her Islamic knowledge, taken aback even. Yeah, you? She asked, putting her phone down. Nah, that's not for me. LaRonda didn't even bother. If Tekk hadn't gotten her, with all his signs and proofs, then she wasn't even going to try. LaRonda was still new to the game herself. What's up with your sister? She asked, switching subjects. Hollis is good, working, Gwen responded flatly. You ain't been on the set lately, have you? Heck nah, I've been on my school growing hard body, she said, super sure of herself. Plus I got a job at American Eagle, Gwen added. Nice. Well, I'll tell your father to call you when he hit me back. As she said the words, her very own voice sang from her cell phone, ringtone. Faith is the key for you and for me. LaRonda answered the call. Peace. Nothing. I'm glad you found time to finally call. I have Gwen here with me. Listen, I need some of that stuff. You know, your medicine. I'm going to get it to some of my peoples. Yes, whatever. Hold on. She handed Gwen the phone. "Hi, Daddy." LaRonda stepped out of the room to foster a comfortable private convo. She knew by the way Gwen said Daddy that they were going to be good. Tekk loved his children with the whole of his heart. He fought hard to gain nearness to Gwen, particularly. He wasn't going to let anything come between that. LaRonda made her way to the kitchen and into the refrigerator. She removed the jaded pitcher of orange Kool-Aid and poured a glass. She had nothing to do tonight. She was going to use the time to put some music and a to-do list together. She understood that in the modern world of hip-hop, one must capitalize on one's buzz and ride all waves possible or straight sink into the oblivious abyss. Gwen appeared from around the living room wall. "Thank you," she said, handing LaRonda back her phone. "What'd he say?" she asked. "He said meet him tomorrow at the McDonald's on 85th Street that we ate at the first time he took me to the mosque." "Where?" LaRonda asked, puzzled. Gwen looked confused as well. "I could have sworn we ate at Papayas on 86th Street, but he hung up before I could say anything." "That's where he wants you to meet him then," LaRonda said, knowing her husband. "He said anything else?" "Look out," Gwen said. "All right, that means make sure nobody's following us." The same feeling hit LaRonda that she had while holding the shotgun in her bedroom a few nights ago. "I don't need all of this." "All right, so I'll see you tomorrow." She escorted the young lady out and suddenly felt the need to talk to God. Cleaning herself for prayer would be quite the task here versus her large, plush, personally designed dream of a bathroom in Pennsylvania. This space was constricting, every object tainted with finely aged filth. She tried to touch everything barely. Toothpaste-stained toothpaste, the rust-stained faucet, the dingy toilet, and cigarette ash-smothered carpet. Ill, she thought, just as she got the lavender going on her hands. Just as she thought she'd be better off simply making a prayer in her head, God struck her with the certainty of that notion being impossible. She would be manifestly cleaner and manifestly closer to God if she went through this. This was a sacrifice, and a small one at that. Therefore, she proceeded. 4 minutes later, in a tone just above a whisper, but not loud enough for Aunt Ramona to hear, LaRonda was getting it in. "Bismillahi ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin." "Sister!" Cynthia yelled as she came busting through the door. LaRonda tried to hold her almond-shaped brown eyes shut, as to not quit so easily. But then Tracy came banging in with that Lincoln Project energy, trampling LaRonda's line of communication with God. "Ew, what you doing? Some yoga shit?" Cynthia asked. "I was praying," LaRonda said, expecting them to feel at least a bit regretful. They didn't. Instead, they just made their ghetto asses right at home. LaRonda folded the towel which she was serving as a prayer mat, thoroughly disappointed. At home, there was nothing disturbing the prayer. Nothing. Those 5 times a day were deemed sacred. Her husband had his prayer mat situated in the basement behind his computer station, and LaRonda's mat found a special place in her walk-in closet in the master bedroom. How the mighty had fallen. "So what's up? Where the food at today?" Cynthia asked with the gull of a guy. She had this thing where she stomped her foot hard after saying some slick shit. After slamming a heavy ACG boot with enough force to shake the bed, LaRonda shrugged her shoulders. Tracy told LaRonda that a day like this was coming. A day which she'd have to have a happy, optimistic, successful black ass back in the ghetto. To God and her husband's credit, she at least was halfway prepared. It was Tekk's idea to use the structure and mass of Jessica and channel it towards good, employing over 20 sisters at the height of the record label's success. They offered any true blue a commission-based job. They had the NYCMC online mentoring program, and Tekk was giving lectures on Juma to the prospects and new recruits under the Jessica White banner. As the Quran instructs, they had sent some good, forward before themselves. But truth be told, Jessica White was en route to becoming aware of they now topic. White, as they may have called themselves, their asses were still playing dirty. The cigarette hustle, the weed bank, another one of Tekk's harebrained plans. It wasn't until the money came in that they focused on the music, and it was only a matter of time before the dividing lines would dissolve between the White and the rest of the crew. There was around $4,000 in the company account, and LaRonda and Margot were the only ones who had access to it. Note to self, cancel Margot's card. LaRonda had around $1,000 in her personal account, and she had Armani's phone number. She'd be okay. She worked too hard not to. The sisters, however, she didn't know. Against her instinct, LaRonda decided not to mention to the girls that the whole system had crashed. There were over 300 CDs in her trunk right now. Tekk's music would sell like hotcakes now that he was on the run and on the other side of the law. The hip-hop nation ironically honored that. Anything the girls brought back to her would be good money, not to mention getting them the hell out of her face. LaRonda walked the girls downstairs and gave them a box full of opportunity. Tracy and Cynthia were hustlers. They would turn that box over quick. LaRonda was getting the rest of the weed off of Tekk tomorrow, so she'd be straight. She could sit at the helm and get by hitting the girls off with consignment until a bigger opportunity presented itself with the music. She had to finish her album and attach her name to something hot. Then she was going to rejoin the stars in orbit, out of Harlem. 1:03 a.m. the same night. Mariah Carey's Vision of Love disc was spinning on the radio as LaRonda's pen slowly worked its way through her songbook. Writing was difficult. She needed inspiration. Looking through the safety bars of the window, she felt like she was in some sort of minimum security prison. Tekk had defended her from this internal darkness since he came into her life. As much as she had started to feel like he was becoming a burden, she couldn't deny that she asked God for a partner of the sort. His energy was exhilarating. LaRonda was good whenever she was with him. He was like having a bodyguard, dishwasher, spiritual advisor, and porn star all in one. The daughter architect sparked the music in her head. Love and loss, the story of her life. The bare, depressing walls around her, a remainder of the essence of her music. Pain. But this pain was certainly worth it, for it would be molded into art. She exploded with song. Initially, wondering if anyone else could hear her. Then she turned up her vocals as to assure that someone could. Her voice manifested. A soft note went forth, not hip-hop, but rhythm and blues. And so the Lord had instructed her, and so she was to approach the game in this manner. LaRonda took her laptop computer and went to the living room. Taking a seat on the brown couch, she caught a glance at a picture of her late sister, Shauna. Struck down by a drunk driver, her bright, dramatic life was cut way too short. True blue for life, LaRonda uttered at the thought of the sisterhood they found in the crew they started with 5 friends. Jessica would be celebrating 10 years of terror next year. LaRonda had been a freshman in high school when Shauna joined forces with Robin and Cynthia to bang on 2 suckers who were trying to cut them out of the loose cigarette hustle. That was a loss that Shauna wasn't about to just lie down and take. The family was going through it. Their mother had just started getting high. Aunt Ramona had just moved in after having lost her job at Harlem Hospital. Shauna had to step it up. Shauna made enough money selling Lucy's to keep the lights on and the stomachs off starve. It was all good until she found herself in deliverance of a letter of extortion from Bo and Manny, 2 petty hustlers from further uptown. They wanted $10 a day from her to keep moving cigarettes in the school. LaRonda could vividly remember Shauna telling Robin that she wasn't giving him shit. Instead, Shauna took the $10 that the would-be extortionists requested and put it in Robin and Cynthia's hands daily. Her only demand was that they swore oath that they would be ready to throw down when Bo and Manny decided to take their rejection to another level, and that they would send all the smokers they knew her way. The girls kept their words, and Shauna kept getting paid. so much so that she began to organize further. She was certain Bo and Manny were coming, and she was willing to bet all her business that their second coming wouldn't be in the form of a punk-ass pencil-scribed note. They would come with force of angry men who weren't about to conceive losing money to a girl. What Shauna didn't expect was a 9mm shoved into her face on 2nd Avenue in broad daylight. He was actually going to shoot her, too. She could see it in his emotionless, youth detention center hardened face. He was going to utter some cold-hearted rhetoric before shooting her dead in the back over cigarette money. But Bo never got the chance. What he got was Cynthia's aluminum bat to the back of his skull. He let off a shot, which actually worked to the girl's advantage. A second bash from the bat came to Bo as he hit the ground. Manny ran off as the men gathered in front of the corner store hustled over, subduing Bo and taking the gun from him, and the legend of Jessica mob was born. LaRonda had only heard about what happened earlier that day, but she remembered full well what happened in her very own bedroom that night. Shauna, who was from Schomburg Towers, entered into a pact with Robin from East River and Cynthia from Johnson that they would all have each other's backs, that they would be equal shareholders in the money that was going to be made from the cigarettes and PCP that Cynthia was bringing to the table. Cynthia's PCP connection was a girl named June from the Isaacs Projects. At length, June was jumped into the group along with LaRonda, as well as Flashy E from Lincoln or Abraham Lincoln Projects. June dubbed the clique the Bitches with Attitude Crew. Nevertheless, while playing around with the name of rosters in a notebook one night, LaRonda noticed that she could organize the names of the projects that the sisters were all from, except Lincoln. She used the first name there, Abraham in that case, and she came up with Jessica. 7:45 p.m. the next night. They smoked and drank like the weed and alcohol was nearing expiration. Dart was still smoking a blunt when the next one was handed to her, and Jazzy was sitting in the corner with Crystal, rolling up more. LaRonda didn't miss the weed as much as she thought she may have, but a cup of OJ and gin was scratching her itch. Someone was bumping Drake's new mixtape across the street. She wasn't on the farm anymore, but 110th Street, the hood. It felt good, although a little played out. This is how they used to hang out in high school. Some of LaRonda's classmates went to college and the armed forces, likely now to be anywhere on God's green earth. And they were still here, just chilling on the block. LaRonda saw Cynthia and Tracy swaggily strut across the street like they had sold every CD she'd given them. "Slow down, nigga. You pass when I let you pass," Cynthia said from the middle of the street, strong-arming a taxi driver. "Peace." Tracy dapped up LaRonda. Then they handed her a wad of money. "We finished," was all she said before annexing into the sea of sky blue in front of the building. It was that very moment that LaRonda understood that God wasn't punishing her. She had the green light. She was going to work. "I told him that he ain't going to be coming in at the same time I'm coming in. If I'm coming in at 1, I want your little scraggly ass in there by midnight. Forget that." The hustle of Harlem was backing her. The resources and knowledge that she had came into in the music biz made her a boss. It was time to live as such. Through the rhetoric around her, LaRonda tried to figure out her next money move. She laughed as she came back to the world from her private thoughts, deciding to just take tonight off. "What your son got to do out there at midnight?" one of the sisters asked Lynette. "I don't know what he be doing. He said he was Richard and him." "Who Richard? Angie's son?" "Yeah, but anyway," Lynette tried to finish venting. "Why would he be over there?" "I don't know, bitch. What I look like, Google.com out this motherfucker?" Lynette said, aggravated. The sisters fell over with drunken laughs, all except the sister who clearly felt violated. Lynette could feel the heat, so she stopped laughing. She put the beer to the earth and put some strength behind her stare. "What's up?" she did. The sister's face soured with vengeance. "Fuck that. Throw your hands up," she declared, knowing that if you let a sister disrespect you once, you've let them disrespect you 100 times. "Oh shit, they about to slap box." 11:19 p.m., the same night. At some point while lying idly across her bed, LaRonda realized that she was caressing her belly. She pulled the shirt up over her brown skin and looked at her navel. She wondered what the secrets of closing of the flesh were, what knowledge God hadn't shared with us in this regard. She couldn't feel anything of the life in her. She had gas, cramps, and was hungry. These were the only things she would have in common with those who bore children. Her phone rang. "Baby doll, I just got off the phone with Wes Wallace. You know who Wes Wallace is?" LaRonda shook her head and rolled her eyes as if Amani could see. "No, I don't know who Wes Wallace is." "Wes Wallace is New Gucci's manager." Her ears seemed to stand erect. New Gucci was that dude in the industry right now. Any business with him would be good business, she assumed. "He wants you to sing the chorus for his next single." "Great, what I gotta do?" She made no attempt to hide the desperation in her voice. "I'm waiting on Wes to email me back right now, but it looks like you're gonna do the vocals in the Hit Factory here in New York. Obviously, New Gucci is on tour, so he isn't gonna be there. ASCAP will handle the rest, okay? Okay, I'll be in touch with the recording times. Stay ready, baby doll. The most important thing you could do right now is stay ready. This whole situation has presented new opportunities, and I know you're going through some major changes right now, but baby doll, we're gonna have to make some decisions. Now, what's going on with your pregnancy?" "What you mean?" "Come on, baby doll," he commenced regretfully. "It's my professional as well as my personal advice that you should just get rid of it." His words seemed to disturb the peace in her womb. Her heart missed a beat, although she didn't speak a word of it. And since she didn't feel a need to speak, Amani took the opportunity to continue. "I mean, Tekk's a fugitive, for Christ's sake. At the very best, they'll bring him in alive, and he'll spend the rest of his life in jail." LaRonda began to break out in an unyielding sweat. She struggled to listen to what she would later have to decide were the words of the devil or God. His sentiments seemed to reach the very life beneath the flesh with an honesty that she wouldn't dare to previously face. The situation was bleak. She could go on further without the extra weight, the weight of a package which now seemed to have burden written all over it. "You don't want that for your child." "I don't know," Amani concluded. "Just stay ready." 4:01 p.m. the next day. Everything about LaRonda's day was bright until 4:30 came around. That's the time that she set the alarm on her phone to remind her that Gwen was on the way. She was anxious to see her husband, but she had the strangest feeling that he was going to make her feel silly for caring so much. He was so judgmental in his every move, his every emotion and thought. She simply didn't want it anymore. LaRonda knew the knock at the door was Gwen, and so she exhaled and committed to going through with this. They walked quietly to the 6th train on 110th, 103rd, 96th, then their stop, 86th Street. LaRonda tried to play it smart and scope the scene for any followers, but it was approaching rush hour in Manhattan. Everyone was everywhere. If the police were trailing them, then Tekk was simply going to go to jail. The first thing LaRonda noticed was the absence of his muscles. The mask that he usually boasted as a part of his overall glow was gone, with the brutal wind that they just escaped by entering the small eatery. Gwen found some sort of way to fall behind LaRonda. "Peace," Tekk said, casually sitting the shopping bag by LaRonda's side. "Nobody followed y'all?" he asked in place of a hug and kiss that a normal husband would have put forth. LaRonda looked down at the bag. She almost forgot that he was bringing the weed. "Not that I could tell," she answered, now meeting his laid-back tone with indifference. He still apparently had the arrogance and pride of his broad, sprawling-haired, upright former self. But all that LaRonda could see was a skinny, unsettled soldier in need of a good home-cooked meal. "What's up, baby?" Tekk asked Gwen before kissing her on the cheek. "Let me talk to LaRonda real quick, then we gonna do our thing," he said with some sort of parental security. Gwen agreed and took the $5 bill he handed her for food. His lips were a tale of pale and rough January. Chapped, burnt brown, from smoking his blunts to the blaze, and with it ashy white from overexposure to winter. His jacket seemed to be wearing him. "Where you been staying, babe?" LaRonda asked, taking a seat. "You don't want to know," he assured her, and she trusted his judgment. "What you gonna do with that?" Tekk asked, motioning his head toward the bag with the weed in it. "I'm gonna make some moves with the sisters and my moms." He looked at her seriously, as if demanding her to explain. "I'm gonna give Cynthia and Tracy a £1/2 to work with. Tell them to give me $550 back. Gonna give my moms a £1/4. Have her give me $400. LaRonda saw the subtle, handsome smirk on his face before he spoke. "And what happens if none of them pay you?" he asked. Sprung dumbfounded, she had no answer. He saved her the trouble and moved on. "Don't put that much in your mom's hands. Give her 6 dimes. Tell her to give you $40 back. If a nigga can't pay you $40, how in the hell can you trust him to give you $400? His simple logic, indeed. Tekk knew that shit was deep, though. That's why they both sat in silence for a moment or two after his question. 6 bags to her, give the girls an ounce each. That way, if none of them come through, you can absorb the hit. But if any one of them come through, you in business." He stood up, his clothes once again pulling down. "I'm gonna go holler at Gwen real quick," he said before kissing her. "Take that." He pointed to the bag. LaRonda knew this feeling in her gut couldn't be hidden. This had to be acted upon. She wanted to go back to being lioness. That was her new dream. Not hustling, fighting all the time. There was always some fight. Her sisters had drama in their DNA, and Tekk, though typically calm and laid back, was by far the most explosive person she'd ever met. She still couldn't believe that he actually shot at the cops. All he had to do was not do that. Some feeling of heavy nostalgia unset by the Jordan Sparks record playing in the background, and the energy of Manhattan completely shifted LaRonda's mood. She didn't feel free anymore. She didn't feel like she was a part of the energy around her in a positive way. "Don't look back, got a new direction. I love you once, I needed protection." LaRonda turned around and took a look at her past. Tekk and Gwen were laughing. The tears mounting in her eyes forced her to look away and toward her future. There was something about the smooth, free-flowing melody on the radio that softened her heart. Her breathing became so heavy that she was forced to grab her chest. "You're on my heart just like a tattoo. I'll always have you." The emotions she had just gone through were beyond hiding. She wiped away the sticky warmth of her tears. She took a moment to recoup, but she didn't look back. She was firm in her unspoken decision. He was alive. He had his daughter. "I'm gone," LaRonda said in the confines of her head before pushing open the door and walking out of the restaurant. She picked up the pace, faster, faster, until she was all out sprinting. She eased up as she got to the corner, then stopped, posting her back against the window of a Best Buy and exhaling. Now she felt free. February 8th, 2009. LaRonda tried to disconnect herself from the presence of God in her head. She tried to disconnect herself from the life in her womb. She tried reading a magazine, but her wandering mind wouldn't allow her to focus. "LaRonda Williams?" "Yes," she answered, clutching her Chanel bag and standing to her feet. She walked fast, followed instructions, and asked no questions. She wanted this to go quickly. It came to pass that she was told to take a deep breath and count backwards from 10. And this was her abortion experience. She woke up free. The worst part about it was that there wasn't a cloud hanging over her. She was truly free. Although she wasn't necessarily at peace, she was free. Her body and life were her own again. No one knew her deeds. If she were wrong, she would try to make it right with God before her judgment and reckoning. In either event, she left it there, right on 102nd Street and a hole-in-the-wall abortion clinic. The next week, the mouth of the Dirty South logo hung behind the front desk of the 19th floor, which LaRonda found ironic, being that they were in Manhattan. Her and Armani walked right in. Wearing a glossy green Montclair jacket, LaRonda typed away at her iPhone, handling her business. Her gold Chloe shades, matching nails, and diamonds from her engagement ring all bolstered her presence. LaRonda was back to carrying herself like she'd been on gold records before. Armani was in his usual dark, but nevertheless sharp gray suit. He was a rather short man who walked like he had something to prove. Chest out, exaggerating the swing of his shoulders. His industry connections were tight. They didn't have to announce themselves anywhere. He had sort of a backstage to anywhere and anything pass. In the B studio, Tone Starks was on the track board. Armani patted him on the back and introduced the lioness. He looks good, LaRonda thought. Tony looked like he had some sort of super gel on his hair and his face and his head. Everything and everyone looked good. A breath of fresh air. She was back in orbit. You listened to the track already, right? Oh yeah, I'm ready, LaRonda answered. Aight, show me what you got, little mama. Tony joked with his handsome, old money smile. LaRonda stepped into the vocal booth and looked around for the headphones until an instrumental oozed from the walls from the room and made that concern a moot point. New Gucci's vocals were already laid. She could hear them as she waited for a cue. Lioness blew her refined voice into the Pioneer microphone and let it go. Oh, oh, oh. The 808 drum machine danced lightly with her notes as the beat boiled. She had so much in her, so much anger, hurt, so many stories of love and loss and violence, loneliness, disappointment, and yet there was gratitude, humility, and thankfulness. All of those feelings seemed to collect in her vocals as the beat dropped. This is my life. Yes, I'ma live it. Y'all boys want problems, come get it. I'm at the top. I'm not gonna stop. Tone Starks was bobbing his head so hard that he moved the waves in his hair. Armani was texting on his phone, jolting his body from side to side and nodding as well. His sharp random movements here and there made him appear to be in a state between epilepsy and cool. I'ma be here till my heart stop. And that was that. She did a few more takes. Tony put an echo effect on her last words, and the track was emailed back to New Gucci's people with the understanding that they were going to turn it into, as Biz Markie put it, something for the radio. Armani was all smiles, looking at Lioness as if he could see the money now. This song's going to change his zip code, he said with the confidence of a man with a plan. And speaking of which, he reached into his suit jacket. That's for you, he said, handing her a check for the malt liquor commercial she did last week. Lioness tried not to smile, looking at the 4-figure note that was going to get her out of her aunt's crib for the meantime. Thank you, God, she said behind her mask as Armani updated her on her agenda, and the word went forth. 7:06 p.m. the same day. LaRonda was sitting in front of her bedroom window next to Tracy, who was sitting on a fold-out chair. LaRonda's head was light. She couldn't handle anymore. Chill, I'm good, she declined the offer from Tracy. Lightweight, Tracy teased, blowing out enough smoke to fill half the room. It's my first time smoking in 4 months, LaRonda said in her own defense. While speaking, her room door swung open. Aunt Ramona emerged, waving a cloud from her face. Y'all got this shit smelling like Bob Marley basement. She scoped out Cynthia sitting on the top of the bunk bed, then looked at LaRonda. I need you to go get me some cigarettes. Even under the influence of the mellow, LaRonda wanted to tell her aunt a thing or two. I don't be going to the store for people. What I look like? Her breathless thought. She passed the blunt in her hand and held out the other hand for Aunt Ramona to replace the marijuana with money. I need you to cover me to Tuesday when I get my check. Not in the mood for conflict, LaRonda geared up and moved out with her girls, like sweet soldiers of the city. Not a word was shared amongst them until they found themselves waiting longer than usual for the elevator. Aight, so we out of here. LaRonda commenced to share her thoughts. I'm gonna take that crib that Armani found me downtown, and we going. I got enough gigs lined up for the rest of the month to hold it down. Let's do it, Cynthia said. What you want to do about the sisters? Yo, I can't feed every bitch, LaRonda exploded, her eyes like crimson. I tried that shit already. I feel you, but sis, we gonna have to keep some line of communication open with the sisters. They just barely passed the vote to allow you to keep your stripes for not participating in Founders Week last year. I know, LaRonda said, but I don't think you're gonna get no more free passes. I know. The elevator hit the lobby and the girls exited. Monica was out front drinking a beer and playing her position as a living fixture of the neighborhood. Where y'all going? She asked, coughing up one of her lungs and suppressing it with more beer. Right to the store, LaRonda informed her. You sick now? She asked her obviously under the weather mother. Don't worry about me, she said with that temper of hers. Cynthia and Tracy kept it moving, in their own pothead zones. No care for the intricacies of the mother-daughter conflict. LaRonda didn't want to be bothered either. She just walked away, letting her mom be what she wanted to be. Monica stopped her daughter as she made her way toward the street. Let me hold $5. 2 p.m. the next day. LaRonda could tell by the plush white studio backdrop and complimentary lunch that she was in good company. The chrome mobile clothing rack contained all sorts of provocative get-ups. Loud, colorful bathing suits, racy lingerie. She saw a crazy J'adore Dior top. She found bliss being reminded that she'd be able to keep all of her outfits. Cynthia and Tracy already knew to play the background. LaRonda walked ahead of them, next to Armani. A tall white man in a suit approached seemingly out of nowhere. He extended a sharp hand to embrace Armani, as if he were deeply pleased to see him. Lioness, Armani turns to LaRonda with the gentleman's hand still in his. I'd like you to meet Dexter Bryce. He's the chief executive of Urban Queen magazine. Hi, Lioness. We're so glad you came. Thank you for having me, she said, playing her position well. We're going to make you look wonderful, he boasted. Now, we're obviously going to get you in many different looks, but what we like for the cover is this gold two-piece. He directed their attention toward the scandalous sheer Brazilian cut bikini. LaRonda's heart challenged her, but she held inside whatever it was that her heart was trying to suggest. So make yourself comfortable. The girls will be with you in a few, Mr. Bryce instructed. Come here, Armani. I want to ask you something. LaRonda grabbed a bottle of water and a few pieces of cantaloupe off the food table. She refreshed herself while checking out the chute underway at the far end of the expansive warehouse. The girls made their way over. You think this gonna be some all-day type shit? Cynthia asked. I hope not, but just in case, y'all go ahead. I'm good, LaRonda advised, knowing that they had many unchecked items on their agenda. Tracy looked over in her eyes like a true friend would. You sure, sis? I don't know about leaving you alone. LaRonda laughed off the notion of playing a game of life scared. Go ahead, sis. I'm good. After the girls left, LaRonda went back to checking out the Gothic photo shoot on the other side of the room. It was such a stark contrast to the white-on-white set that she was immersed in. Two of the men drew close, face to face even, for a series of shots in front of a dark brick wall drop. She wondered what in God's name those photos could be used for. Hello, a perky, plump young Latina popped up. My name is Julie. I'm the stylist. Would you please follow me? She said, turning away. 30 minutes later. Following directions, LaRonda turned around and gave a seductive stare into the high-definition lens. She popped her ass out and flung her hair. Her skin was warm and glowing from the vitamin E gloss that the makeup artist applied. You all right? Dexter Bryce asked, sensing some hesitation. Yeah, I'm good, LaRonda answered, as if she just wanted to work through the battle in her inner sanctum. She tried to deny it, but Tekk's voice and wisdom somehow found his way into her ear. His inspiration was beginning to manifest in the rigidness of opposing. You don't have to do it now, but you're going to be forced to make some decisions to follow God's law and cover yourself with dignity and wear the hijab, or you're going to follow the ways of the world and be an ass to the camera hoe. LaRonda wanted to run from his voice as she had run from his person, but it was embodied in her soul, the same soul that he had used the same voice to save, the voice that he read the Quran to her with. LaRonda tried to remove her soul from beneath her skin as the camera continued to flash. "You want to take a few minutes?" Bryce asked, picking up on the weird vibe. "No," she screamed in a rage of confusion and uncertainty, and a word went forth. It came to pass that LaRonda got paid, and Mo paid. It came to pass that she forgave herself for leaving Tekk, and so did the music industry. She was the new sweetheart of hip-hop and R&B, the one who made it through the bullshit with the publicity and fan base that followed. It came to pass that Capital of the Empire Records came knocking at her door with a record deal, advance money, and a can't-miss marketing plan. It came to pass that spring sprung, and through the days, LaRonda felt the hint of sovereignty she'd been looking for. Tekk was somewhere underneath the cover of the city, eating, praying, rhyming. Lioness was, for all intents and purposes, a household name. It came to pass that her album, Head of the Pack, sold over 200,000 units during its first week. The tour she was getting ready to head out on was going to require an all-out effort for the next 2 months. But at its conclusion, LaRonda was going to buy her own home. Her dream was now real, and the word went forth. April 15th, 2009. "Sisters!" Lioness greeted in a morning voice as she entered the living room. The new season's sun was baking in the morning, shining like hot silk through the blinds, sitting across the wood floor and the walls and their spirits. "Sister!" both Cynthia and Tracy hollered back. The sight of both girls' endeavors made waking up extra refreshing. Tracy was smoking a blunt in front of the computer. LaRonda knew if Tracy was smoking, that meant she had already ate, and if she had already ate, that meant there was food waiting for the lioness. Cynthia was built for this season. Ever the grinder, her cell phone was to her ear, apparently on hold for a call for what LaRonda assumed would be something that was going to keep the checks coming in. Cynthia looked at LaRonda. "Yo, L, they saying if they don't get more pictures of you for the website, it's going to look like a Capital of the Empire only thing and opposed to a NYCMC Capital of the Empire thing." "Tell them don't worry about it," Lioness directed as she took a paper towel covered plate out of the microwave and took a seat at the dining room table. Tracy focused on her own chores. She had a knack for the internet. She would research the shit out of any little thing. The price of tea in China, water in Frankfurt, the nearest bookstore, who said what on Twitter. She proved extremely resourceful to what was forming as Lioness Inc. Tracy's network of college and high school friends supported anything she posted online. Her strong standings with the Sisters and Lincoln Projects could make anything she said a buzz. Thus, the circle was tight. Lioness's celebrity, Tracy's advertisement and promotion, and Cynthia's cooking, muscle, and open ears, it was all clicking. Lioness gave them each $2,000 cash to ride out. They already had taken the same oaths under sisterhood to become Jessica. So $2,000 coming in from a sister to do what they would have been honored to do anyway was a good look. Not to mention the room and board. The girls kept Lioness's stable happy and the think tank thinking. They didn't verbally abuse, degrade, or crush her feelings like a big bad husband who wanted to play king but could never do the kind of numbers as the queen. "We passed the 300,000 views mark on YouTube," Tracy said as she got up from the front of her computer and made her way to the table to join Lioness and Cynthia. Cynthia could make a meal out of anything. This morning, it was Western omelets, queso frio, and fried plantains. "We're going platinum, yo," Tracy said, taking her seat. The girls giggled as they dug in. "For real, though, we just got to keep doing what we doing and make sure the album is hot," she said to Lioness, "and we got the rest." Lioness shook her head, feeling Tracy's energy. The album was as hot as she could conceive. 4 guest appearances. Her title track, Head of the Pack, was produced by Justin Wright, one of the hottest names in the industry. Lioness's record label was going to dump enough marketing dollars into the project to push it whether it was hot or not, and the single she released with New Gucci had attained near anthem status in urban America. Before the authorities shut down Tekk's record company, Lioness collaborated with Buck, a former NYCMC member, to do a song and video that Tracy had just pushed past the 300,000 views mark. It was nearly a mathematical impossibility that the Lioness would not blow up. Girls finished their humbly filling breakfast and got ready to tear up the city. Lioness relieved herself in the bathroom before they headed out. She could hear Tracy on the other side of the door. "Can I get a cab at 4555 44th Street? Lioness flushed the toilet and ran the water from the sink to wash her hands. She looked into her own soul via the medicine cabinet mirror, understanding that her soul, was in need of prayer, which it was getting less and less of. She closed her eyes, deciding to talk to God before they headed out. "Yo, they said come downstairs," Tracy announced. Lioness quickly fled the bathroom. She grabbed the keys, sunglasses, lip gloss, wallet, and threw it all in her purse. She clipped the kitchen lights and shut down the computer, wrapped the leftovers, and jetted to the Races for the Riches. 1:16 a.m., the same night. "Oh, baby, I never got the chance when you're with me, baby. I never got the chance when you leave me, baby. I never got the chance to tell you that you mean the world to me." Lioness had certainly gained proficiency in rocking the crowd. She wore a pair of white Guess jeans. The firm fit allowed her to feel the effects of the squats her personal trainer put her through yesterday. Buck took control of the mic. In crowd control mode, Lioness danced her fine self to and fro, smiling at the fellas and singing along at her discretion. It felt weird after the performance, exiting the stage and heading in separate directions from Buck. This time last year, their agendas would be nearly one and the same. Tonight, a hug and proper accounting of the proceeds would suffice. LaRonda changed outfits once again and switched gears from business to party mode. The VIP section was tight. No scrubs, no lanes, just fine buff brothers busting through their shirts, sharp haircuts, Issey Miyake, and goatee. Tracy was on the dance floor, getting stank with one of the guys. "Go, girl. It's your birthday. Open wide. I know you're thirsty." Tracy was given a tall, ball player-like boy the ride of his life. He had a bottle of Clico in the hand that he waved in the air. Tracy pulled her head back and opened her mouth as the chorus suggested and said, "Ah." The boy tipped the bottle in her mouth, dousing her with alcohol. Lioness pulled out a phone and recorded what she saw so she could shut Tracy up the next time she tried to talk that let's go to church crap. Lioness laughed to herself and stepped down the stairs and made her way to the bar. 3:03 p.m. the next day. Sitting along the corridors of the Milano Park Mall in a white denim jacket, booty-hugging leggings, and lambskin boots, Lioness felt like the standard of a woman. Tracy always looked good beside her. Her black silky hair was near shoulder length in height now, and the summer seemed to flaunt it. While she was never the athlete, Tracy had the swagger of a ball player. She took long, dominant strides when she walked. She grazed past the traffic of life like a New York taxi driver. The retro patent leather Jordans she was sporting certainly added to her point guard appeal. "Oh, I like this. Check this out, Elle." Cynthia said from the background. They walked back to the poster shop and checked out the picture of Lena Leslie. Yo, Chica, we gonna be on tour with her next week, Tracy said, smiling. Lioness chuckled, mimicking the personal reserve of her ex-husband. Well, I guess that means we don't have to spend $300 on her poster then, huh? Cynthia's face cracked with content. She was truly happy to see her childhood friend really stepping up to the plate. Lioness was the boss. She kept him fed, fresh, and focused. Yet somehow she found some way to stand above it. Opening up for Lena Leslie was a big deal, to say the least. As the lyrics of her new single called it, girls were ruling the world. Lena Leslie was an icon at the forefront of the movement. She represented wealth, beauty, confidence, persistence, and downright hard work. The All Ladies tour she was launching was going to catapult careers, and Lioness was the opening act, the first lady on deck. They walked into Nordstrom with the aura of spenders. The Trinity split, each taken to their own liking. One of the ladies working in the Clinique section stopped Tracy to test out some of their new moisturizers. Cynthia was pulled into the beautifully rich, luxurious colors of the Polo section. Lioness wanted to take the whole store home. In this new public life of hers, she could find use for anything fly on the right occasion. She removed the brown lace dress from its rack and held it up against her chest. That looked like some Lady Gaga shit right there, Tracy said as she linked up with Lioness in a Michael Kors department. I know, right? She asked, smiling brightly. I want it. What the hell are you going to do with that? This can be a little something extra to rock on tour. A little something extra, Tracy mocked. I want to be a presence, you know? When I walk into the room, I want all eyes on me. Tracy nodded her head in deep understanding, respecting her sister's ambition. Be careful, sis, she warned. That's what Tupac had. Lioness looked at her briefly, wondering why in God's name Tracy would be taking it upon herself to be her advisor. Tracy was usually the loose, wild one. Not wanting to ruin her shopping experience, Lioness simply moved on. They all picked up a few pieces, nothing big. They did lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, and the plan was to go home and chill until the show tonight. Cynthia started the car, and an explosion from the radio welcomed them. This is Hot 93.3, 4 o'clock news update. Russell Big Easy Down, the bodyguard of the fugitive rapper Architect, died today from wounds he sustained in police custody back in January. This after Down turned himself in for shooting at detectives in East Harlem. A spokesperson for the 77th Precinct claims Down started a fight with officers as they tried to conduct an in-cell investigation. Down's friends and family are outraged and are demanding justice, saying that it was not likely that Down would have turned himself in to authorities if he was in a state of mind to fight with them. Russell's grandmother advised members of the press of their plans to file a wrongful death lawsuit against the 77th Precinct. The vibe was frozen, as if there were an agreed-upon moment of silence among everyone but the DJ. LaRonda's chest took into itself, although one couldn't tell by her face what she tried to keep in a pristine state. They all listened on. Also today, police officials released a video of Architect leaving the same building his son, rapper J3, was shot dead in a few minutes before the murder. Lioness shook her head as she turned the channel. They're trying to smoke him out, she said. What you mean, Tracy asked from the back of the car. They're making up some shit to discredit him. I was with Tekk that whole day. No way he could have been on camera leaving the building before J3 was killed. She sat back as they pulled out the mall parking lot. They know he'll come in to defend his name. 1 month later. Where's Mommy? I don't know, Shauna said. Where's Mommy? LaRonda, I don't know. Young LaRonda's bawling took on all possible audio levels before peaking at an onslaught of crying and hollering, all of which her big sister Shauna must have taken to heart because she went into the kitchen and found him something to eat. At the tender age of 6, all she knew about preparing food was pouring milk over cereal. Maybe it was a subconscious of survival. Maybe it was God's inspiration. but Shauna recalled seeing her mommy prepare oatmeal by making water really hot and stirring it in the pot for a few minutes. LaRonda watched as her sister put fire to the pot and stirred the water until it bubbled with heat. Her stomach growled in her dream and in the real world. Lioness opened her eyes to the welcome of peace and security. In this real world, she wouldn't have a problem filling a void in her stomach. She was safe and sound in the cot of her tour bus somewhere in western Ohio. She stretched herself out across the mattress simply because she had the space to. The circle of Lioness's life morphed into waking up, getting dressed, heading to the venue for sound check, going back to the hotel or bus, chilling out, smoking with the girls, going back to the venue, waiting around backstage for a few hours before performing for a few minutes, attending the after party where hundreds of sexual advances were hurled at her, 4 to 5 hours of sleep until it was on to the next city to do it again. Her bank account could barely digest one serving before a hefty feeding was shoved into it again. A Scotta aviator shades, a D&G dress that she didn't pay for, and a pair of bad high heels were on deck for the day. It was a new day. It felt like 80 degrees outside as Lioness opened the window. The air-conditioned interior would leave her uncertain. She inhaled Allah's air with gratitude. There was a pride in her womanhood this morning. Alas, she was satisfied with the here and now, truly living. As soon as she stepped off the bus, she saw Lena Leslie and her monstrous bodyguard strolling about. "What's up, Queen Bee? How you?" Lioness tried to maintain a balance between a fan and being a star in her own right. "What's up?" Lena asked. "I saw you open up the other night." Her eyes seemed to possess a higher power. Her body was a testament of her complex, yet plain beauty. Her stilettos gave her the height of the average male. Lioness found herself starstruck. "You can blow, girl," Lena said, looking Lioness exclusively in her eyes. No pun intended. They laughed together as if they'd known each other for many years. Lioness had to swallow before she spoke. Lena Leslie was the head bitch in charge. Her emotions battled on opposite ends of a dichotomy. On one end, she felt like a candle in the sun. On the other end, a prideful joy in knowing that for at least one night, the head chick in charge was a fan of hers. "I ain't going front, though. Can I get an autograph?" she asked Lena politely. With no loose paper between either of them, she took out her MAC eyeliner and tapped on the shoulder of her one piece. "Sign right here. Thanks to you, I'm going to be able to afford a lot more of these." 10:22 p.m., the same day. They performed the same song at least 50 different times by now. Same lyrics, the same consistent energy of a new crowd of a new city. Lioness strutted on stage with a tight body that she'd been exercising all winter for, the Prada that her lifestyle afforded her, and the glow that God gave her. Cincinnati embraced her presence by upping the decibel level of the arena before she even raised the microphone. "What's poppin', Cincinnati?" she greeted them back. She commenced complimenting New Gucci's lyrics with silky notes. "Oh, oh, oh." They had their on-stage flow down pat. New Gucci was a good-looking brother, standing nearly 6'3", a chiseled body, and of course, he only wear the newest Gucci. The two artists were a nice combination for the fans. "This is my life, I'ma live it. Y'all boys want problems, come get it." "Yes," New Gucci yelled, raising a mic in his diamond-studded fist. "I ain't gonna drop. Yes, I'm on top, and I'ma be there till my heart stop." As New Gucci began to spit, Lioness took a moment to scope it all out. About 4 rows back from center stage, someone held up a homemade sign that read, "We love Lioness." Overwhelmed with gratitude, she sang harder, smiled brighter, and kept on shining. 1:58 a.m., the same day. It appeared as if everyone in attendance was having the time of their lives. The drinks were flowing, and so were the laughs and vain talk. Lioness caught a glance of two women tongue-kissing off to her right. Not too far from them, another young lady grinding her ass so hard into the jury-draped brother that they might as well have no clothes on. A dark chocolate cutie was macking the Tracy on the other side of the VIP section. Amani snuck up behind Lioness just as their waiter returned with a bottle of champagne. Romeo D is here. A word? Cynthia asked in place of Lioness. He wants to meet you, Amani added, looking at Lioness with a devilish smirk. Lioness and Cynthia exchanged surprised stares. But like any seasoned Harlem chick, she knew how to act like she'd been here before. She took a swig of rosé and followed Amani's lead. As a woman of understanding, Lioness knew this wouldn't be no ordinary meeting. Romeo D was arguably the prince of R&B. Business or pleasure, Lioness couldn't deny that she'd probably be down to take either route. Romeo D, Lioness Williams, Amani introduced him. Nice to meet you. Romeo D took it upon himself to seize her hand and embrace it with a kiss. This nigga think he cute, she said to herself, but her eyes and the level to which she was flattered spoke for itself. Likewise, she responded. Might I remind you that Lioness is married to a big black ex-convict who's currently on the run for shooting 3 police officers? Amani put forth somewhat jealously. Romeo D took a smooth half-step back. Oh, I couldn't tell by that naked ring finger, he said, somehow forcing Lioness to look into his fine face. I'm sorry, didn't you say something about a song? Amani asked bluntly. Oh, right, Romeo D got back to business that he had overlooked. I'd like to record a song for you for the Bank Jacker soundtrack, he advised Lioness. Great. Well, she chuckled, I never thought I'd be saying this, but have your people, she subtly pointed towards Amani, contact my people, and we'll make it happen. He slid her one of his business cards. You need to contact me personally if you want the position. He licked his lips in a way that Lioness would have found inappropriate if anyone else had done it. Oh, the soundtrack, of course, he said before leaving. I don't know about that guy, Amani said, placing a stumpy pale hand on the top of her ass in the heat of the moment. Lioness wiggled from beneath his grasp. Well, we'll see what's up with him, she said, taking steps back towards a VIP table where they had been enjoying themselves prior to this. You don't want to hang out, baby doll? Amani asked. Lioness knew it probably would be to her economic advantage to give Amani the time that he seemed to be looking for. But since she didn't check him for touching her butt a few seconds ago, she definitely was going to wait this one out. I'm going to go finish hanging out with my girls. She tapped him on the shoulders. Go enjoy yourself, Amani. 1:49 a.m. the same night. Sitting by her lonesome in a hotel suite, Lioness felt like a queen on her throne. She was surrounded by nothing but luxury. Her bedspread, wardrobe, even the small things like the vodka she was drinking or the rhinestone case on her cell phone. The standard was luxury. Lioness lowered her empty snuffer of Belvedere and orange juice to the gold-finished coaster and sat back. She had no idea what Tracy and Cynthia were, but she figured wherever they were probably doing work for the empire, even if that meant taking a night off. I need to get back to making my prayers. Lioness's better mind reasoned as she considered how God would judge her dealings with the fame monster. Understanding the just nature of the God she was serving and his propensity to forgive kept her spirits up. I'm going to give some money away tomorrow, she decided, looking down at her American Express card atop her green and red wallet. Charity was a required thing of her, and she had no problem with that, so long as she had everything she needed. A text message came through on her phone. Romeo D. You up? Lioness. Who's this? Romeo D. Romeo. Lioness. Hey, you. Romeo D. What's going on? What you doing? Lioness. Chilling with my girls. You? Romeo D. Come hang out with me for a minute. Her nerves jumped, hoping that this wasn't an attempted booty text. The righteous side of her quickly suggested, that the best route was to get with him tomorrow, that no dignified lady would indulge in such an offer at this time of night. In her defiance of her righteous spirit, she let her fingers tight. Cool, but I can't stay out long. Gotta do an interview in the morning. 3:03 a.m., the same night. Lioness stepped out of her hotel feeling like Carrie Bradshaw herself. She was smiling like a child. Not sure herself to the left or the right, she walked forward to Romeo D's hot tamales-colored Lotus. The only thing that allowed her to suppress how impressed she became was the fact that she didn't have to play the groupie role to get close to him. He was courting her. Yet, even still, Lioness had to compliment him. "Nice whip," she said, sitting low in the bucket seat. She felt like she was preparing to move faster than the speed of sound in a race-inspired ride. "Thanks," Romeo D said with all his swag. "Put your seatbelt on." "Like I said, I'm not staying out long," she reminded him, finding the poise to check herself. "No problem. Anytime I get with you is good time," he said, like a refined gentleman. He pulled his exotic insect of a car to the back of the building. "I can't be sitting in front of your hotel on an $80,000 ride, know what I mean?" "You're so full of yourself," she joked, finding a way to present her gifts of beautiful teeth and glowing skin. "It is what it is, baby," Romeo D said, slouching all the way down and checking his cell phone, looking like more of a rapper than an R&B dude. "The matter of fact is, I done sold millions of records across the globe. I ain't no average cat. The autograph requests and camera phones being shoved in my face is a round-the-clock thing. But anyway," he moved on as he put his phone away. "When's your next single coming out? I heard you did a track with Goosebump." "What is it, like some industry database where everybody's shit is kept?" Lioness joked. "Goosebump is my boy," Romeo D said. "We're both from College Point." Lioness nodded in silence, not feeling the need to apologize. "Damn, y'all New York girls ain't no joke." "I'm just not used to all this," she said, waving her hands around the interior of his two-seater as if it resembled everything that Hollywood was. "I can see." He started his 250 horsepower engine as if he had had enough of her attitude. "I always found that you get more out of this game with honey than vinegar." Lioness actually took that advice and held on to it, although she wouldn't apply it tonight. As they got back in front of her hotel, she fumbled around for the door handle, which was placed like that of no regular car. "Well, I'll hit you up sometime, probably tomorrow," she said nicely. Romeo D pulled off, not the least bit interested. Lioness mentally shrugged it off. She wasn't going to play this man's game. She strutted back into the hotel and onto the elevator. The 13th floor was live. The girls were obviously back. Approaching her suite, Lioness heard her ex-husband's hard, distinct voice on the other side of the door, which changed her entire mood. She opened up to the sight of several sisters bobbing their heads with deep approval from the lyrics booming from the system. "I'm still flame-throwing, them lames knowing got my A game going. You claim you righteous living like a hoe and your nose wide open off the fame, your lame's closing." "Ooh," Tracy uttered, scoring her face like Tekk was hitting on it. The heads continued to ring. Lioness walked over to Nikki, who flew out from Harlem for the week. She dabbed her up in traditional Jessica fashion. All ears still on Tekk. "Now serve this divine sentence, cause some of your truth is missing. You just a victim. Help the prophet, don't just walk with him, baby, listen. I got the strength of 10 men, and I'm swinging for the fences till the ending." Lioness picked up a CD, which was lying idly atop the mattress, and examined it as if she were amazed by its sheer existence. He released a mixtape? How? When? She struggled with herself. She opened up the disc cover and read the red-on-white artwork. Architect, the Holy Spirit. Produced by Jason Architect Jordan. Mixed and mastered by Maurice, better the producer Bowles, for On the Books Entertainment. With the full attention of his audience, the Dread continued his lyrical assault. He was rocking like Tekk rocks, hard in the name of God. Cynthia crunched her face and shook her head. She leaned forward to turn the volume up. "Yo, he's going in." "Word," Tracy agreed, ever the hip-hop ear. It was her turn to distort her face. He said, they ain't find me yet like Bin Laden. Recorded this track in Manhattan, still scrapping guys back and no slapping. What's happening? Moved by music, she stood to her feet, still or is. This shit is so hard, yo. Everybody bumping it uptown right now, Nikki testified. As the track bounced, the comments were reduced to bobbing heads, mutual stares of disbelief, and straight silence, respectful silence, as the MC rhymed his mind. Each bar of each track, it was evident that wherever Tekk was, he was strong. His new mixtape was 14 Songs of a Warrior. There was no physical address on the cover, no contact information, no barcode. It was like a Go CD. Inexplainable, but undeniable. The word went forth. July 4th, 2009. Backstage on the Girls Rule the World tour was full of energy, camera crews, stars, and fun. Lena Leslie was hanging out with her big shot husband. They had so many marketing dollars surrounding their every endeavor that they were nearing the Kennedys in popularity. A production crew from HBO followed Lena for a documentary. Author Leonard Smith was recording what he saw for her biography, and E's camera crew was filming for the family reality show. Lena was playing around on her nephew-in-law's skateboard, and the cameras were just rolling along. She was becoming America's new sweetheart. Wearing a white dress with rose gold and diamond cross that hung from her chest, set ironically between tempting flesh or breast. She jolted in Lioness's direction, coasting for a moment until her balance gave way. She came down awkwardly on the edge of the stiletto heels she was wearing and fell right into Lioness's arms. The onlookers breathed in relief, as did Lena. "Oh, thank you, Jesus," she said, gathering herself with the strength of her thick legs and flashing her big Texas smile. She pushed her long honey blonde braids behind her shoulders and turned to her savior. "This is my girl, Lioness." She gave LaRonda a personal introduction to the broader world. Lioness knew even then that those 6 little words can make her rich if she played her cards right. "She's my label mate and the opening act for my tour. She's from Harlem World." "You know it," LaRonda smiled into the cameras and threw her finely manicured fingers up into a peace sign. "My album is in stores now, head of the pack." Ever the jokester, Lena Leslie grabbed Lioness's shoulders for leverage, mounted the skateboard once again, and pushed back into her life of entertainment. Lioness knew she couldn't buy that sort of publicity. For such an opportunity to literally fall into her hands could be no other than God's work. She thanked him in her head as a water taxi coasted by in the water corridor of the Woodlands Town Center. Houston was humid. The height was heavy, as it was the 4th of July and Lena Leslie was celebrating in her hometown with her royal family. Even Lioness was signing autograph after autograph as she walked through the festival with her entourage of Cynthia, Tracy, Nikki, Armani, Trent, who was their driver, and her cousin LaQuisha and LaQuisha's daughter Imani. A clown juggling bottles came upon Imani and quickly placed the bottle in her hand. She took it just soon enough for him to catch the remaining bottles from falling to the ground. He contorted himself in a way that took their breath away and demanded the cheers of bystanders. Imani laughed, and her smile made the heart in Lioness's chest smile. Imani would never experience this kind of weekend in Harlem. She was free like a kid to laugh, eat whatever she wanted, and play. Lioness knew she was getting points from God with this. Lioness had just crossed over the confines of her musical boundaries. Perhaps it was the remake of Mary J. Blige's What's the 411, or the hook she laid on Casper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It didn't matter. Lioness was now at a level where she just had to keep showing up, stay cute, and not do anything that her publicist couldn't cover up. And she would keep winning. 2:59 p.m. the same day. At 4 o'clock, Tiffany Bryan wants to meet us in the lobby. Lioness was leaning against a dresser, pulling on a bottle of water with her plump lips. "At 4 o'clock?" she asked Cynthia. "So I just ain't gonna get to do nothing today, huh?" Cynthia simply shrugged her shoulders. What's up with those T-shirts I ordered? Lioness moved on. They said they won't be able to get the order out until Wednesday at the earliest. Oh, they bugging, Tracy spilled. We need to get the order from somewhere else. Lioness walked over to the window and thought. You know, Tekk's daughter Hollis is a designer. I wonder if we can get her to do it for us, she said as she preset the alarm on her phone clock to let her know when there was 1 hour to showtime. You got her math? Tracy asked. Yeah, get a number out my phone, Lioness said while peeling her Nautica sweatpants from her healthy legs. Damn, girl, you been hitting the thigh master kind of hard, ain't you? Cynthia asked, causing all the girls to erupt in laughter. Lioness had on green, pink brand panties. Her shape spoke for itself. Lioness, I need you to... Whoa, Amani bore witness, in no haste to check himself as he stood frozen at the door. Excuse you, Cynthia asked, like she had better not hear him say anything else. Oh, my bad, he finally excused himself. Them white boys love them some sisters, don't they? LaQuisha said, shaking her head in disgust. Nah, Amani is cool, Lioness said in her agent's defense. Cool my ass, LaQuisha cursed, like she had no respect for the tenderness of Amani's ears. That motherfucker need to know his place, she carried on. Word, Tracy joked, throwing up her hand for LaQuisha to slap. That nigga fuck around and pop up on you in the shower trying to do some Playboy movie shit. Come here, Lioness pulled her 6-year-old cousin to her and whispered in her ear. Don't listen to them. They're crazy, she said in a half-serious manner. July 19th, 2009. It felt refreshing for Lioness to be gathered on a Sunday morning with her first brothers and sisters, her Christian family. They looked good. Lena Leslie sat in the first row wearing all white. She looked sin-free. Lioness was in a peach satin dress. The notion that she had some mark on her that would cause her people to reject her because she converted to Islam was slain instantly. They all embraced their sister, either because they recognized the face or because she was on Lena Leslie's hip the whole time. There was also the possibility that they sincerely wanted to welcome the newcomer to their beautiful church. The service was rather lengthy. That part Lioness didn't miss. She actually didn't mind the numerous go-rounds of the collection plate. She had money, and she knew she owed a little something to God, Almighty in heaven. So she coughed it up. And so, it came to pass that with just 2 hit singles and 5 features on other artists' semi-hits, that Lioness became a full-fledged star. It came to pass that she secured her very own home in the suburbs of New Jersey. It came to pass that Lioness began praying while in the showers twice a day versus the 5 more ritualistic, appropriate prayers that was required of her. She was with God. She just wasn't all the way with him. If there could be such a thing. The Girls Run the World tour, it came to pass, had swept across America with the likeness of the recession which Lioness's friends were trapped in. The recession almost seemed to be sent by God for her and her new friends. The masses of underemployed yet overlooked youth and overworked, underpaid rest of the population were really only listening to celebrities in this new day. Lena Leslie could put out a song telling people to go buy red nail clippers, and the people would go buy red nail clippers. This reality forced the capitalists among the red nail clipper companies to seek her out and pay her and her friends large dollar amounts to promote said nail clippers. It was all weird, but highly profitable. It came to pass, with mostly chance encounters, that Lioness and Lena Leslie formed a friendship. She even had a video on her phone of Lena passed out on her bed after falling asleep right in the middle of one of their conversations. It came to pass that Lioness found new friends, and these new friends all had money. And these friends only had friends who had money. And nobody said anything, not even amongst themselves, at least not to Lioness's knowledge. The machine of friends just watched the money of the people of the world come in. So long as the money kept finding its way into each of the friends' accounts in a timely fashion, they were all a happy group of friends. It came to pass that Lioness's old friends, her Jessica sisters, were the first ones to try to slander her celebrity. She's not a real sister. She don't be repping the set no more. Talking reckless on YouTube. But the word went forth. Christmas Eve, 2009. As usual, the roads told the tale of reaching New York City. Potholes detonated front tires like small explosions. Lioness was in the back bouncing around to the radio. She was excited to be home. She only had a quick sound check and a show tonight, then the rest of the holiday season was her own. The bus pulled into the parking lot of Madison Square Garden. Lioness gathered her things, then went inside to take care of business. "Thank you," she said to the bodyguard who swung the bus door open for her. "No problem," he assured her. Stay back," he instructed the small, scattered group of fans snapping pics and requesting autographs. "Don't worry about it. I'll sign a few," Lioness said. "Oh my God, Lena Leslie," one of the girls screamed frantically as she saw the queen emerge from her limo a few feet away. Without a thought or glimpse into the eyes of anyone in the small clique, Lena began scribbling her name on their papers. "Look at you," she said, smiling at Lioness, all signing autographs and whatnot. "Hey, I try to do what I can do when I can do it," Lioness joked as she handed one of the preteens back the CD she signed. She looked over to the bodyguard who opened the bus door for her. "Who's that?" she asked. "Who knows? Garvin's been rotating these security guys every week or so now," Lena said. As if on cue, Gavin, Lena's enormous head of security, stepped in between Lena and everyone. Okay, that's enough. Miss Leslie has to go inside for sound check," he said before escorting her towards the B6 section. "You ready to go yet?" The apparent gift of a bodyguard asked Lioness. "Yeah," she informed him. "Thank you," she said in a high pitch to the girls gathered around her as the black jean, black sunglass sporting man led the way. "I'm in Section C," Lioness informed him as he started walking in the same direction as Lena Leslie. "Oh, all right. They didn't tell you that?" Lioness inquired. "No, they don't give me too many details. I'm just filling in for my sick partner." "Okay," she extended a hand. "Lioness." The man did the same, almost hesitant before he spoke. He shook her hand and looked deep into her eyes. Detective Brown. 2:58 p.m. the same day. Stumpy always looked like he was scoping out for the cops. Strolling down the NYC blocks, playing the walls close, in no particular hurry to get anywhere, he was a hustler personified. Peace, sister. What's good?" he asked, standing on the other side of the car window. "Ain't shit. What's up?" Lioness asked. Coolin'. You heard from this guy?" he asked, referring to Tekk in a silent code. "Nah, you know he be disappearing when he want to." "I'm saying, he just lost his son. You never know what's going on in that man's mind right now. Plus the police, you can't blame him for dropping off the radar for a sec." Lioness refused to indulge in any more Tekk talk. "How you though?" she asked her one-time producer. "You know, the game is the game." His words served as a reality check of the struggle of the 99%. "Don't you got a show tonight?" he asked. "Yup, at the Garden," she informed. Yeah, big things." She smiled, not really able to be modest about performing at one of the grandest venues in the city. "You heard about your moms, right?" Lioness turned on the seat to face him exclusively. "Stump, don't tell me no crazy shit." "Shit, Monica done stabbed up Rachel from the 15th floor." Lioness could only shake her head in disbelief. She had planned on parking the car and taking a discreet walk through the hood. Now, she suddenly wanted to be anywhere but Harlem. "But yo," Stump said, seemingly picking up on her vibe. "There go them beats you wanted," he said as he slid her a CD. "Good looking on the loot. I'm out of here," he concluded before camouflaging back into Spanish Harlem. 7:43 p.m. the same night. New York, Lioness thought. This would be by far the biggest crowd she'd ever be stepping in front of. What would Tekk do, she wondered. He'd make a prayer, smoke a blunt, then start getting ready. She pulled out a 50 sack of Florida Crippy that Cynthia got for her and locked the bathroom door. Lioness rolled up, smoked, and got ready for the stage. 16 minutes later. As clear as a dove in the night sky, Lioness could see a sky blue bandana tied around a bottle of water fly from the sea of fans and hit her on the shoulder. She stopped singing and lowered her mic. The new bouncer rushed to center stage as if to shield her from any additional insults. The off-duty detective presented a menacing front, tall, able-bodied, and hard demeanor of a typical ex-con looking for someone to start some shit. Lioness backed away from the whole thing and went back to singing, controlling the crowd. No matter what, Lena Leslie had taught her, this is your domain. You got to do anything to protect it. She finished her song like a professional and made her way backstage. Nice, Fab said, congratulating her on her performance and slapping her a high five. He was on next. Lioness took the towel and bottle of water that Amani handed her and made her way to the dressing room. Thank you for that, she said to the detective who was trailing in her wake. No doubt, he affirmed as they walked on. 2 minutes later. Lioness didn't like the look on Cynthia's face as they came in the dressing room with Tracy. Yo, T. True Blue saying the sisters want like $20,000 to keep your name good in Harlem. What? Lioness demanded from the front of her illuminated mirror. Just think about it, Cynthia said, putting her hands out as if to remind Lioness that she wasn't the enemy. It's a lot of new sisters on the set now, and I'm not sure if... What? Lioness nearly screamed. I wish I would let a bitch play me. I'll cut a bitch so bad her mama won't recognize her. She shouted pridefully. Fuck she think this is? I'm the first rounder, a Jessica co-founder. Cynthia made sure to look deep and good into her eyes. All right, she said, submitting to the boss's orders. December 25th, 2009. Lioness woke up to an undeniable magic in the air. She was covered with a small blanket on the couch. The first thing that she saw was Amani ripping the wrapping off her gifts. LaQuisha helped her daughter unwrap the box she was struggling with. There were smiles all around. Lioness sat up. Oh, shit, LaQuisha said as Amani moved her first present. What is it? Amani asked, still unable to identify what her aunt got her. An iPad, her mother informed her. Go thank your auntie. There was something in the way that Amani walked over that forced Lioness to wonder what her own child would look like. Bittersweet, she wrapped her arms around her niece. After a big Christmas breakfast, Lioness was curiously inspired to hop in the car by her lonesome and go for a ride. 2 hours later. The city was unseasonably warm and slow. There was a caramel cappuccino in her cup holder, and smooth jazz soothed the interior. Lioness had come to adore the open road. Jehovah had created so much space, such vastness of his earth. Her Volvo ascended up a mountain on Route 81. She crossed into the state lines of Pennsylvania at exactly 6 p.m., and she was in front of her padlocked former home at 6:31. 3 minutes later. The very sight of him nearly took her breath. He looked like he'd woken from a nap he'd taken 2 centuries ago. Lioness had never seen his beard so thick and long. His dreads were alive with volume and new shades of brown. He had wrapped them as one and swirled them across his head and shoulders. Peace, Lioness said, knowing no other way to greet him. What's up? Tekk consciously decided not to greet her in peace. I wanted to see the house, she told him as if he asked. You wanted to see my house? He asked, flashing his warrior. Lioness tried to oust the fire in his eyes with tenderness in hers, to no avail. She looked away only to look again. You're saying I didn't contribute, Jason? It was his turn to look away. Tekk walked about, clearly looking for something to say. If she gave him enough time, he would surely find a way to be negative, degrading, and foul, so she moved on with another question. Where were you? She asked, looking around the mess of the place. In my closet in the basement. He said, You love your closet, she joked, knowing she was halfway near softening him up. He finally took a seat, and so she said, the two of them in a moment of peace. How things work out with you and Gwen? All right, he answered, as if he didn't feel like talking at all. In his own apparent recognition of such, he forced himself to say something else. At least you left me with the weed when you left. You still know I love you, right? LaRonda asked. Fuck you, he downright exploded. You fucking bitch. How you just gonna get up and leave and you carrying my baby? Tekk, you were gone. So what? You should have known I was gonna get back. You should have had faith, you motherfucker. Instead of having faith and strength in God's test, you gonna go kill the fucking baby? I don't want to have a baby by someone who refers to the baby as the fucking baby. Fuck you, you fucking... He employed all his strength not to call her bitch again as he advanced towards her. You the same one who was saying how good of a father I am and how you want to give me a fucking son, calling me a prophet. Well, you're obviously not that. Fuck you, you fucking bitch. Fuck you. She stormed toward the front door. LaRonda, he called like a man lion. He jogged after her. LaRonda, he called, reaching her as she reached the window she'd climbed through. I'm sorry, yo. I'm sorry. Lioness let herself tear up with emotion. She didn't want to argue with him, not on Christmas Day. She didn't necessarily want him back in the innermost parts of her life either. She desired his love, his touch, and affection, just for one day. 4:43 p.m., the same day. They were playing each other like familiar strangers, not saying much, extra polite, and foregoing discussions of the depth of issues behind them. They just kept it civil. Lioness went into the town alone to scavenge any hot food she could find. They were in the middle of nowhere on a holiday. She came back with 4 individually boxed beef hot dogs, 2 steak burritos, and a bag full of other junk. Throughout the wrecked and foreclosed home, Tekk had set up a camp in the confines of his walk-in closet in the basement. There, LaRonda sat with him on Christmas, over candlelight, on a floor which was completely covered in Tekk's various prayer mats. Despite his tantrums and harsh words, Lioness knew Tekk's heart. He had always been the one to protect, not harm her. She felt safe, as a young girl ought to, around her father with him. As she watched him reading, she knew he was in his element. Biting down on his burrito, he had his legs stretched out across one another like some sort of wise king. How that shit felt? He asked Lioness, looking up from his book. How what felt? She asked. The actual process, Tekk said, waving around his stomach. I don't want to talk about that right now, babe. He looked at her with tough love in his eyes. Then, often as he did, he got lost in his own thoughts and looked off and away. What? She ascertained. He looked back at her and reached out and grabbed her knee with some sort of strange love energy. His touch besieged her very heart. Emotions flew through her so immensely that they seemed to arrest her. She breathed and relaxed further. As if Tekk could feel her willingness to chill, he grabbed her leg and pulled her into himself. She complied in the form of assisting him to displace her from there to here. He rested his crown on her lap. The lioness was pleased that he didn't find it necessary to look up at her. For then he would have found a woman whose face couldn't hide how much she missed times like these. The moment after that thought passed, he looked up at her, at which point she had no problem returning the childish smile engraved on his gold face. You make me sick, she said, smiling, joking as she grabbed one of his dreads. Saying nothing, he only rubbed her legs with more love. Let's just stay here for a week, she said as she caressed the side of his face before kissing it. No phones, no emails, no rapping, just you and me. 8:02 p.m., the same night. Although he was standing still, Tekk seemed to be gaining momentum towards her, approaching her in a secret way. Lioness looked away, as if to not make his conquest so easy. Yet Tekk kept advancing. He stretched out and took her breast with a gentle command. He tightened his grip and began to massage the deep tissue of her chest. Her mouth opened in lust, pushing him further. "Give me a kiss," he demanded as he took what he wanted. Their mouths eloped as he ripped her shirt over her head. She lifted her leg onto him, and he took her up. She licked his neck with passion, opening her legs wider for him. She was eager, and he met her with strength, the likes of which created an explosion of love and hot sex. Afterwards, she laid her head across his tattooed chest and smoked a blunt. 2 days later. "He gets so deep into his thoughts," Lioness said under her breath as she caught a glance of her husband, who was currently engrossed in some heavy knowledge of the Holy Quran. His eyes raced across the page as if he couldn't receive God's words soon enough. Bored and needing to talk. "How you feeling?" she asked, almost scared to interrupt him. "Alhamdulillah," he attested. "Alhamdulillah." She forced her way into his lap, catching a glance of the black and white composition notebook that he had next to him. "You're writing down your rhymes now?" she asked, knowing him to only spit lyrics from the top of his head. "Yeah," he admitted. "Gotta be sure now. Gotta distinguish Allah's truth from the words and suggestions of the devil." "How'd you do that mixtape? The money, time, recording?" Tekk pulled a smile from his face. The Holy Quran instructs us that God will provide for his messenger from an unexpected source. Knowing this to be true, Lioness moved along for the conversation's sake. He obviously didn't feel like getting into details. "What you plan on doing with the record company?" I'm just going to change the legal name and hand it over to my daughters. "Oh, and I need you to print 500 copies of all my CDs. I'm going to give you the money." "You don't got to do that. I'll print them for you. You ain't got to pay me." She could already see the numbers shifting around in his head from the burden she lifted off him. "Thank you," he said gratefully as he closed his book and gave her his full attention. "I hope you know I still love you," she assured him. Tekk reached his brolic arm out to embrace his former best friend. She exhaled. He looked into her face and began rubbing around the heart of her inner thighs. "You want to give me some?" 2 hours later. After the sex energy wore off, it was back to being bored and restless. Tekk went in and out of his artistic zones, which took him all over the premises in all sorts of moods. Lioness passed the time with the self-improvement project. She did her nails, flossed, stretched, and did some sit-ups. Currently, she was sitting in her desecrated kitchen reading an Elle magazine. Tekk came back inside from the backyard. Lioness smiled within, scoping out his rebuilt body. His shoulders and chest were back. She could see the fight back in his face. No sooner than she decided to speak on his progress did he turn his fight on her. "Yo, when you plan on putting a hijab on like the Quran instructs you?" His face was hard. Lioness felt as though she had to match his rigor, which instantly created a nasty environment. "I can't do that, Tekk, at least not now. I have a career," she said. He only shook his head, but the disappointment across his face spoke for itself. "Why would you try to impose something like that on me now?" she asked, now agitated. "Oh, I'm imposing it on you? I thought that was the will of God." She began raising her voice. "Do you know how hard that will be for me right now? The ways of God are indeed difficult, except for those who bring a lowly spirit." He quoted straight from the Quran. "Jason, you're just saying that because you're not the one who has to do it. So what you saying, your deen is more difficult than mine?" She slammed the sides of her fist into the counter, feeling the need to do more than that. She was heated. "Your ass won't stop smoking weed. How about that?" she said, leaving, not sure where, but anywhere except next to him. "You practicing your own form of Islam." "Oh, really? You want Islam? He took the turban off his head, and threw it at her. "Here," he said, as he came over and pulled it across her chest. "Cover this shit up." He pointed to the small television on the table. "Cut that shit off and shut the fuck up." He walked as to level off his fire, practicing my own form of Islam. "I'm the one who taught you the shit. Allah made me Muslim, Jason, not you. You did not write the Quran," she flat out hollered. "Who else is going to bring you the word, huh? Who else? Name one other person." "All right," she said. "You know what? I'm ready to go." December 29th, 2009. And we're back, Hot 93.9 on your radio dial. We're still chatting with Lioness. "What's up, New York?" Lioness said in her cute tone. "You kind of like blew up since the last time you were here," Donette the Diva confessed. "Yeah, Donette, life has been good. Life has been really good. You also slimmed down a bit, I see." "You think so?" Lioness played it modest for the listeners, smiling behind her microphone. "Yeah, because I remember there were rumors circulating that you might have been pregnant. And I remember looking at you like, maybe." They both laughed off, digging any deeper into that direction. "Well, thanks, I guess." "All right, well, we're going to take another call from line 2. Who's this?" "Splat, splat. This T True Blue, Isaac said." The caller identified herself as a fellow Jessica sister with too much energy. "Shout out to all my Third Ave bangers. Y'all know what it is. Get it in out there. Bang hard." "What's up?" Lioness asked into her mic. "You tell me sister's been looking for you." "Looking for me?" Lioness demanded, as if she weren't about to be entertained at the idea of being punked on the radio. "Who looking for me?" "Yo, what's up? You got a hearing problem?" "Yo, Taisha," Lioness referred to her by her government name. "Who you talking to?" "Hold on, you know her?" Donette asked. "Yeah, she from around my way," Lioness confirmed. "Bitch, ain't no around your way. This my hood." Whoa, Donette tried to diffuse things. "You can't be using curse words on the airwaves." "Bitch," Lioness asked with the fire burning in her face. She was never the one to be disrespected without a fierce fight. "This our hood," she fired at Lioness over the airwaves. "You got some dough and moved your punk ass straight out the hood when beef was cooking. When's the last time you participated in a Founders Day?" "Bitch, I am Founders Day." Lioness truly resented the notion. "When was beef cooking?" she asked in the confines of her own head. If this young bitch only knew about the rumbles we've been in all over the city for Jessica, she got some fucking nerve. "Not no more you ain't," T True Blue hollered. "Well, do what you gotta do. If you feel like I owe you something, come take it," Lioness did. "I'ma see you." "See me then." She pushed even further, now sweating from intensity. "See me." "Okay, next caller," Donette said, clipping the conversation and moving on with the show. 20 minutes later. "Yo, get ready for them bitches," Lioness instructed Cynthia. She pulled a small mirror from a Hermes purse. "I want somebody on T True Blue," she said, straightening her fine black hair as the elevator got to the lobby. "Find me some sisters." "That bitch is trying to make a real name for herself, huh?" Tracy asked rhetorically. "That's all she's trying to do," Cynthia said as they left the building. They rounded the corner like a monster of 100 heads. Traces of sky blue and white everywhere. They weren't looking to be discreet. They were looking to be loud, abrasive, and meddlesome. "Splat, splat," they all shouted as they swarmed. "Get in the car," Tracy hollered, diving in the driver's seat. Lioness hurried. "Ah," she yelled. The pain arrested the beat of her heart. She grasped deeply as some shred of instinct forced her into the seat. The beating on the windows terrified her, but not as much as the start of the engine relieved her. "Ah!" she screamed out again, looking down at her bloody finger. Someone had cut her. The driver, Trent, was in the passenger seat, suppressing the swelling knot on his head. Tracy came fatally close to mowing down the sister sprawled in front of the SUV. She mashed the gas. Lioness's finger that once bore her wedding ring was now ripped and bloodied. Next to her was Cynthia, who didn't have a scratch on her, but had the MAC-10 machine gun sitting ready on her lap. "Give me that shit," Lioness hollered, snatching the weapon, now ready for dinner. Tracy, swing back around, she said as she cocked the cold steel. This a one-way street. Fuck that, turn the car around. Those bitches damn near cut my finger off. Her last rational thought was the hope that she didn't have to kill anyone. She was going to scatter a few shots into the pack and let them know what was up. A gray Toyota Camry with activated sirens zoomed into the block. A plainclothes officer jumped out, flashing his gun. Nobody move, he yelled at the mob, some of whom were disappearing as he spoke. Another unmarked car and cruiser arrived, forcing the sanity back into Lioness's world as she stashed the firearm under one of the seats. As it came to a screeching halt, Lioness's adrenaline pulled her out. Get back in your car, a detective in a Yankee hoodie demanded, pointing his weapon at her. Those fucking bitches cut me. The boys in blue were rounding up the sisters against the building and collecting identifications. Take it easy, the officer suggested, now using a totally different tone with a damsel in distress. What? You were going to get out and start a 20 versus 1 fight with a mob of chicks? You can't fight an army with a handgun. Here, he said as he handed her a card. Give me a call if you want to testify. New Year's Eve, 2009. They had fried chicken and cornbread, yams, potato salad, string beans. Lena Leslie was messing around with the choir as Lioness stuffed her face. When she went off to refill her cup, Lena whispered in her ear and informed her that the New Year's service was about to start. Lioness took her few last bites before tossing the plate in the garbage. The Reverend took the stage. While walking to take a seat, Lioness peeped the new bodyguard trying to blend in with the Christians while doing his job. I thought he was only filling in for his partner for one day, Lioness said to Lena, who was seated next to her reading a message on her phone. Who's that? Lena asked. Detective Brown. I think he told me his name is. What? You don't know him? Lioness deflated. Disappointed Lena didn't remember discussing the mystery man who Lioness first noticed at the garden. She saw him again outside Lena's downtown apartment when they did the Letterman show the other night. And he was at the Mayweather dinner as well. Lioness could see the detective make his way over to her. Lena shrugged her shoulders as he took the vacant seat at the end of their row. And now, church, if we would all bow our heads for prayer. Dear Father, we come to you this evening to ask you for protection against evil. Father, we ask that you keep your righteous hands on us. The congregation was in the middle of a prayer when something of the unknown summons Lioness to look over her shoulder. Tekk was sitting in the back. She turned back quickly, which seemed to prompt the detective to take a look. Brown's eyes locked with Tekk's. He knew him. Lioness simply looked down, enjoying the people and leaving the things they couldn't change in the Father's hands. Detective Brown jumped up from his seat. The word went forth.